Hello everyone, welcome to FPL BlackBox episode 23, and this is the big one. Hello everyone, welcome to
we've got a bit of an echo.
23. Have we? This is the big one. From hello everyone.
That's it. Sorry, it's my fault. I had YouTube open at the same time. Oh dear, what a disaster! And also the images are broken.
Mark.
Look at this. Look, let me just fix this. Let me just fix this because I don't like having
hour over here.
Let me fix this. Bear with us. What went wrong there? Something was. I don't know what went wrong there. Anyway, we're going to be fine now. Let's just check the other one while we're online.
So it's not just me. It's not when I host. That's fine. Everyone feels, as he's hosting, it's going to go wrong.
Right. Okay. There we go. We're fine. We're fine now. A little bit of a technical problem. It's a first for us, that kind of technical issue.
I know. And it's not like everyone will jump on it every chance they get.
Let's start the intro again. Say hello, everyone, and then it's easier for me to edit the podcast later.
Right. Here we go. Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 23 of FPL BlackBox. And Mark, it is the big one. The biggest double game week we've ever had in FPL. Our season's probably resting on the next sort of 14 days or whatever it is. How are you feeling about it?
Is it officially the biggest double game week we've ever had?
It is.
I mean, I really, going back year. I mean, I can't remember one as big, I must admit, so to speak. I mean, it's quite daunting, isn't it? Because obviously this is a game week which could change the course of our seasons. Mm-hmm. A lot of chips being played, wildcards being thrown around, bench boosts, of course, triple captains, which is probably what I'm going to be doing. So yeah, it's quite nerve-wracking being on the eve of this. And of course, you're coming off an amazing game week as well, which has already changed your season, I would say.
I don't know why I said 14 days, by the way. It's like 5 days. It's literally the 27th of February to the 5th of March. So it's all really condensed in a really short window. Well, thank you everyone who's messaged me on Twitter and Instagram and everything to congratulate me for my first good week of the season. It's a bit weird. I don't really know how to react to it. It genuinely is my first properly good week this year. So. Yeah, it's a nice feeling.
It was overdue, and it's got you into the top 400k. Every week I used to say to you, there's not much wrong with your team. I don't know what I could do to help in terms of offering any advice, because you didn't really put a foot wrong. It's just you haven't had a really massive green arrow. You haven't had that big game week, and finally it arrives, and now it's come at the right time. Like right before this double game week, it must be exciting for you to suddenly feel like the season is on for you now. What's your feelings about your ambitions for the season? Because you kind of top 10k has still got to be a possibility now, I would say.
Yeah, I mean top 10k is pushing it. I think I said that last year and got close and fell just short. It's if I could just have a season sort of in the top 100k, probably around 50k is probably where I'm aiming, which would be quite nice. But yeah, obviously, if I can really nail this week and half my rank again and be in the kind of 100k, 200k mark, then I'm about where I was last season, and I can really look ahead with some optimism. So yeah, no, it's nice. It's and I feel like I'm quite well set up for the doubles, and yeah, no, it's a good feeling.
Yeah, well, we're going to look at your team in a minute, and my teams, of course, but tonight we're talking about. Obviously game week 26, and we both played the wildcard, haven't we? We're not going to play the wildcard, let's make that clear, but we have put wildcard teams together as if we were going to play the wildcard to help those out there who are obviously doing the same. So we're going to look at those teams, and it's quite interesting. I was thinking, I don't want to see your team till the last minute, because I had a feeling that we'd be quite similar, and that is how they've turned out. There are a couple of key differences, though, which are probably going to be quite interesting talking points. So we're going to look at those. And also, we're going to dig deep into the captaincy, because, of course, we always look at the captaincy. We always look at some data. I'm going to go a bit deeper this week. We're going to repeat some of the stuff we did with Athena and Bamford. We're going to look at those double game week pairings and how the contenders fared over the season when you pair up their game weeks. I know that sounds confusing.
You were right.
Yeah, it worked for Rafina. Right. So we're going to try and do it again. And it sounds confusing, but when we get to that point, you'll see what I've done. So I've approached that differently, but it's pretty interesting, I think. And we're going to go, deep dive into the captaincies with the triple captainship in play for me. I think I am definitely going to play it. I think I am definitely. Is that a thing? kind of. No, I am going to play it. And so we'll look at who I'm looking at, and I'll try not to be too biased, although looking over the stuff I've prepared, I'm like, there's an obvious bias here. It's very difficult, isn't it? When you've decided your strategy and you want to present content to an audience, it's hard to not allow your own thinking to get into the material that you're discussing.
I wonder who you're going to triple captain, Mark.
I know. But I'm going to try and be a bit more fair-minded with that. So if you sense some bias, as just have some kind of klaxon warning or something, or make a little sound, a little bell sound, okay, something when you sense that. So I'm try not to do that. But yes, we're going to do that. It should be a packed show. We've changed the format around a bit. But let's get going, shall we, with a look at your team. And for once, you are going to delight in seeing this team, aren't you? You're not going to cringe. You're not going to like cower a little bit. You are going to be bold. Tuck your shoulders back and talk us through it. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, just a really good week. I mean, 2 players out of my entire 11 blanked, and it was probably the 2 least likely players to blank if you think about Salah and Gundogan. And well, Gundogan recently, how good he's been, and Salah in general.
Yeah.
I was kind of thinking, they both started. And I thought they when they start, you think they're going to deliver points. So they didn't. But yeah, Pope in goal, 8 points. Cancelo, Stones and Dallas. Dallas is really proving to be one of my best moves this season. Bought him in a few weeks ago. This is his second double-digit return for me in about 4 weeks, I think. So yeah, really nice. And then Salah, Fernandes, Rashford, my transfer last week coming in, and I nearly got rid of him. So that was a bit lucky. Gundogan and Rafinha, who I bought in this week for Souček. So 3 out of 4 of my last transfers have all got kind of double-digit returns in the period I've owned them. So that's really nice. And then Bamford triple captain and Antonio. So I've had a bit of a mixed reception to the triple captain. I feel a little bit aggrieved that Bamford's offside goal wasn't given.
Let's discuss this, right?
I'm not happy with that.
What you explain your point of view on that one? Go on.
Well, my point of view is that I could have stopped the frame at a given moment and he wouldn't have been offside. And it was very, very, very harsh for that goal to have been ruled out. He thought the goal was harsh to be ruled out, and I agree with him. And if he scores that, gets a couple of bonus scores in the next game, then he's getting a pretty big return. So obviously I'm a bit biased because I triple captained him, but I do think that offside was very harsh. And similarly, it's not the first time it's happened to him. I mean, look at the offside early in the season with his sleeve when he was pointing.
Yeah. But I'd like to point out that it wasn't VAR who gave it offside. Without VAR, there wouldn't even have been that check. It would have been given offside, right? Because the flag went up offside, right? So
I'm not blaming VAR.
It was going to VAR to rule whether it was on or off. So it's not really a VAR thing. Because I saw a lot of people going, VAR, it's ridiculous. Well, if we didn't have VAR,
that's what Bamford
would be offside.
Said as well.
Yeah. Right.
Bamford said as well, it's kind of killing the game. And I just think, like, they're reviewing it and it was never going to change. They would always have found a way to make it agree with what the linesman did, in my opinion.
Do you think that? Do you think there's an element of, we've overruled 2 or 3 decisions this weekend or whatever, let's not overrule this one? Do you think there's an element of that?
I just think there's an element of the way they do it, the way they draw the lines just isn't consistent enough for me, and just isn't done in a way which is reliable every time. And I think there has to be a margin of error where they say, okay, you could freeze frame it at a split second before and he's probably onside. And I just don't understand what the point of that is, because it's not. I don't know. I just don't like it. I don't like the way the lines are drawn on those type of cycles.
Quite literally, and also they're very precise with the lines, but they're not as precise with the ball leaving the foot. Right. So when it comes to drawing the lines, they're like, basically, it's surgical, isn't it? It's like absolutely microscopic. But when you look back at where the player making the pass, they can't be definite as to when that ball has left the foot. So that affects it. So you're being forensic at one end, but being quite kind of fuzzy at the other, and that has to be improved. I mean, I think it can improve. It's here to stay. It's not going anywhere now. I think, and I just think we've got to get it better. But I think the Bamford one. I mean, as someone who captained Rafinha, I'm kind of jarred by the fact you're claiming bad luck for Bamford when Rafinha was superhuman in that game.
Oh my God.
Unbelievable.
I mean, Cooper could have had about 4 goals in that first game. He was. I mean, Rafinha was brilliant in both games. I mean, he was through on goal, wasn't he? And that tackle from Romeu.
I know.
When
tackle!
When Romeu first made that tackle, I was like, that has to be a foul. Yeah. There's no way he could have caught back and made that good a tackle. Then I watched the replay of it, and I was just like, he's won the ball so cleanly.
Did you not think that Rafinha almost ran across him to get the penalty? Because I looked at it like, well, if he went direct for goal and he stayed on his current path, he would have got the shot off. But he almost diverted into a central area as if to go, well, just in case they close me off, I'm going to get into a central area so I can get the penalty at least, in case I don't get a shot off. It's quite clever, I guess.
And you can see from his reaction as well, the way, he wins that ball absolutely perfectly, and Rafinha goes down like he's been shot. Like, he was obviously, as soon as that tackle was coming in, he was going to go down.
It's a yellow. I'm not being funny. It's a yellow. It's got to be. They're not. That's the other thing. They're not giving yellow cards when the referee gives a penalty and VAR overrules it. Why is it not a yellow card? Because they've deceived the referee in the match, and only VAR said no, it's not a penalty.
Yeah, I know.
That keeps happening week to week, and yet we're not doing it. And it's almost like we're going, well, we're not going to give yellow cards for deceiving officials because it's not really fair because of VAR now. And it's like, well, no, it should be doing it. And Rafinha should have got booked as well. I mean, fair play. But what a couple of games from him. I mean,
what a week though. I mean, if the triple up with Dallas, Rafinha and Bamford, it was a complete disaster after the Wolves game. I mean, 1-0 Wolves couldn't have been a worse score for anyone with the triple leads. And then you go into that game, the first half against Southampton also looked a bit bleak. And then the second half, I mean, all three of those players scoring. I mean, Bamford, getting 8 points. It's not a bumper score. You always think triple captain, you're hoping for 20 points, 25 points. It so rarely happens. I mean, you look at De Bruyne early in the season, Salah early in the season, Sterling. Unless you stuck it on Gundogan last week, I think somewhere in between, round about 8 to 12 points, I think is probably quite a decent return for triple captain. So I'm not too upset to have played it. And I'm considering the bench boost this week, which is why I want to play it.
I wasn't sure if you were going to do that this week. That's interesting.
I wasn't. As the week's gone on, I've got more receptive to the idea. So we'll talk about that.
Lots of chips flying around in. Let's look briefly at my team. And I mean, I'm delighted with Dallas because I was like this. I was like not sure if I want to get Dallas. My two transfers were Dallas in for Soufal and Ings in for Antonio. Obviously, the second one. Ings didn't work.
You about Ings.
I know. I don't know why I got talked into it because on my plan, which we'll look at later, I had Antonio to Kane early is what I was going to do. And although that wouldn't have got me any points, it would have saved me the transfer that I'm going to have to make this week. So it would have saved me 4 points because I'm having to make my transfers this week. I'm probably going to take a hit. So not only did I lose the difference between Ings and Antonio, which is only a couple of points, right? Because Antonio got 5, did he? Is that right?
He got 7.
Did he get 7? Oh, God, it's made it worse. Okay, so he got 7. So it's a 4-point gap there, plus the 4. So I lost 8 points there. That's a bad decision. Mistake. I'm not gonna pretend that was bad luck or anything else. Mistake. I don't know why I did it, but I did the Dallas move, and I was gonna think. And at one point, I was thinking I'll only do Ings and I won't do Dallas because I can play Cancelo, and actually Cancelo got 5 points. But so I was thinking my bench is. I mean, with Cancelo and Calvert-Lewin on the bench, do I need to make 2 transfers? And I was more set on Ings than I was on Dallas, so I was quite relieved that I went
the problem with Ings was as soon as the deadline got announced and the fixtures getting announced by the Premier League a second after the deadline.
We got to talk about that because I honestly, and if anyone thinks that I'm in the know in any shape or form, this highlights that I'm clearly not, because had I known that Southampton wouldn't have had a double in 26, I would not have got Ings because I'm selling him now. I'm selling him for Kane. So if I had any information whatsoever about those fixtures, I would not have done it. And so when that broke a minute after deadline and Ings didn't have the double in 26, I was like already gutted. And I was thinking, well, at least hopefully he'll return. What do you make of that? Because there's a lot of debate about that, whether it was intentional. I'll let you speak first. Go on, Ez.
I mean, I don't know is the answer. I don't know if it is. It can't be the case that the Premier League have got all the Premier League clubs to tweet kind of the same time about their fixtures just to troll fantasy football managers. Or do the Premier League care enough about our weird little group to do that? I just don't buy it. But at the same time, it's a pretty massive coincidence, isn't it?
Yeah. When you say weird little group, it's 8 million players, isn't it? It's not little anymore, is it? We're weird.
Yeah,
we're
weird.
Okay, but we're not. We're not little. But yeah, I got to think it is intentional. I've got to.
Really?
I can't. Yeah, because the thing is, in my experience, the fixtures have come out and they get embargoed for a few hours, right? So the communication goes round. It goes, right, this is embargoed until this certain time. This didn't seem to be the case. I mean, I don't think they would have embargoed it for 6:31. And I think had they done that, something would have leaked. So I think it literally went out to the clubs and everybody at that time. So that meant that clubs couldn't tweet early because they didn't have the information, or if they did, they didn't have
it was happening. Weren't the club tweets happening bang on 6? Because they were like scheduled tweets, right?
Were they? Were they happening on? Or
were they happening a few minutes after?
I thought it was after. I don't think there was any information on the fixtures. I mean, obviously the clubs were saying a few days before. Managers were saying things, weren't they? But I don't think confirmation was made until.
But why? Why would they do that?
Because I think that they felt that there was an unfair advantage to some FPL managers if it broke late. Well,
no way.
Well, that's the only thing I can think of. I just cannot. I've never seen anything like this before. As in, I mean, you've got to think that that is after office hours as well. Why would they want to do that on a Friday after office hours? It's the worst time to be putting anything out which is a newsworthy story. As an ex-journalist, you think, well, you don't do something like that at 6:31 when people are literally not only winding down, they've gone home. So it's a very odd thing to happen. In any industry, you don't do things at 6:31 on a Friday. You just don't, right? So I just found it very, very odd indeed. But anyway, enough on that. I'd like to think it was down to FPL because we are important. We are very important. So important, in fact, that we should probably talk a bit about this FPL insider business and the Villa situation. Yeah. The Grealish injury, we were all kind of aware of it on Twitter, weren't we? Because of there was a rumour before the injury picks, wasn't there? And then the training picks. Then the training picks broke. And when Grealish wasn't in the training picks, my first reaction was he's got to be in. There's got to be an injury because he's poster boy, right? Of all the Villa players who are they're going to have him for front and centre, aren't they? And then obviously, I think what happened was the FPL Insider account, which is the account which seems to be tracking people who could be in the know. He or she released news of the fact that after deadline, Grealish was out of the teams, and then that's where the controversy started, and the gun started to be aimed at FPL. What do you make of it?
I think it's absolutely ridiculous. that I think the whole FPL insider thing, I think is great. It is a guy. He's done a news article where he's talked about him setting it up and setting up the bot and the crawler and all that kind of stuff, and how he's been on Reddit tracking down players and staff to build this model, which is great. But let's be honest. It's the training pictures are key. They're always key. They've always has been key. When a player isn't pictured in training, it's the first alarm bells that start on Twitter every time. The FPL insider thing. I mean, what manager in their right mind is going to say, right, guys, we're going to change our tactics today because there's a bot going around who's told us that the assistant kit man of Aston Villa has sold Grealish from his fantasy football team. He must be up. It's absolute nonsense, I think, and it's just making I can understand why managers who don't really understand what's been going on have told, there's a potential leak going on in this system, and their first thought is, right, that's really bad, we need to stamp that out, clamp down on fantasy football like they've done at Villa and all that. But when you actually think about it logically, I mean, for one thing, it could be used the other way. You could get managers saying, right, if you transfer out Bruno Fernandes this week, then that's going to make everyone think that it's absolute nonsense that anyone would base any decisions on their team selection based on FPL Insider on Twitter. I just the thing to stamp out is the training pictures, because the training pictures is actual proof, for whatever reason, that your star players aren't training, and whether that means they're just having a bit of extra rest at home or they're doing some charity work or whatever, the rumour mill is going to start churning, and that's going to happen.
What I would say is the people who most scrutinise training pictures are FPL managers, to be fair, and because when we see training pictures, we always look for our players, right? And then when you don't see a certain player, you start tweeting, "Oh, I noticed that." So that's how it gets round. And I don't think the clubs realise there's a level of fan who scrutinise those pictures and imagery in the way that we do. But we do.
I would actually say that I suspect that at clubs there would be people working in social media team or whatever who would feed that kind of information back. So interesting, there's been 40 pictures posted today. None of them featured Jack Grealish. Not saying that's definite, but it's a bit strange he's not in it. That to me is something that you can kind of use and at least discuss or talk about. If the same person came in and said that these people have taken them out of their fantasy football team, no one is listening to that. No one. It's absurd. You've got all these really clever stats analysts people and all these guys talking about intricate details of players' physiques and everything. They're not going to listen to some bloke, some nerd who plays fantasy football and is following it on side. I just don't buy it.
No, I think nuts. There's a lot of opinion about should players be allowed to play it. I think, put it simply, the Premier League won't want players and clubs to not support it, right? They will do everything they can to make that happen. I'm sure of that. So while clubs might be banning it from their teams now, I think we will see steps taken for next season to make sure that players can play it. Now, that might be bad news for us because it might mean that they give the option to make teams private, that they restrict scraping in some way. Now, there are all kinds of ways they can try and do that, but I think that we will have more difficulty looking at some teams next year, and we'll have more difficulty getting data from the game next year. I say us as a community, because I think the Premier League will spend some time now going, how can we make sure that players can play it without exposing this risk? I don't think they'll say, okay, players won't play it, or forget about it, we'll move on. Because it's important to grow in the Premier League brand overseas, right? Because overseas supporters connect to players and clubs through FPL and on greater numbers every season. There is no way that they're going to lower that or just do away with the fact that, I've seen Jack Grealish on FPL, playing FPL. I know his team, and I can pick him in my team, and that connection between. And we saw with Bamford what Bamford said after the games the last two times.
Exactly
connects to play. Like we instant reaction is, we love Bamford. He mentioned FPL. That's the same, and so Leeds
and more people.
Leeds will gain supporters through that.
More people watch the Premier League. Absolutely,
it's just nonsense that they would just take it on the chin and go, "Oh, all right, then players won't play it." There's no way. No way, I just cannot see it. Yeah. They're going to do something. They're going to take measures to make sure that players can play it and that data within those teams is protected in some way. There'll always be insiders. There'll always be physios and kit men. What can you do about that? The physio goes home, tells his son about something, and his son does something in his fantasy team. You can't go to those levels to protect it. So that's going to happen. There's going to be some people will have a competitive edge because they work in football. So what? Right, that's part of that.
I think the question marks come though if, and I'm not saying this happens because obviously it'd be crazy to even suggest it, but you never know how some people's psychology works and people's mind works. If fantasy football did start to affect players, if it did start to make them think, I'm going to miss this penalty because
Come on.
So if that kind of stuff happened, and I think, but the thing that could be linked to is any kind of gambling or betting. Because that there could be some kind of, do you know what I mean? That is the kind of the danger is that if FPL did start to become something that people started betting on, and I can already see people in the chat being like, "How's he talking nonsense? He's not nothing like bet." I know it's not, but in the future it could be something that is bet on.
Yeah,
and we've seen in other leagues, we see fraud, corruption and stuff is a problem. So the Premier League is going to want to distance themselves from any potential for that to happen. Obviously not a thing at the moment, but essentially could become a thing. So that to me is the bigger worry. I think if they're going to stop players playing because they're worried about leaks from their teams, that to me is just absolute nonsense.
No, but the clubs will say to the Premier League, if you're going to ask our players to play it, what are you going to do to make sure this doesn't happen? I think that's what will happen. So the Premier League must look at things they can do, like the option to make your team private.
But they just use fake names. Why can't they just use fake names?
Yeah, maybe, but Yeah, I guess it's a possibility. Anyway, watch this space. It's something
don't call yourself Patrick Bamford.
I know, and I was saying...
call yourself Mark Southerns, and I was fine.
And I was saying... Just don't pick players that are teammates. And I know that means that they can't compete on a level, but the footballers aren't playing it to win it, are they? They're playing it to connect to the fans. Yeah. But they're also playing it to contribute to something which is important to the Premier League brand.
Absolutely.
Right? So I don't want Patrick Bamford to beat me. I want him to play it. I don't want him to beat me. Yeah, that'd be ridiculous. So, yeah. So, anyway, more on that, I'm sure, to come.
I wouldn't mind if Patrick Bamford
beats me. Okay.
Or I definitely wouldn't mind if he beats you.
Yeah, thanks very much. Let's look at the Great and the Good League, because I'm making moves here. I'm hunting them down. Fabio now is just 22 points ahead of me. And what's the gap to general? Let's see, 23, 29.
I know, you're closing.
It's doable now, isn't it? It's on. It's on. Yeah. I've got. But you are the.
God, you'd be unbearable if you won this. I know.
Imagine. Joe said on Twitter today, Mark is obsessed with the Great and the Good. I said, well, I've got like shoot league ladders on my wall, and then I looked up shoot league ladders. Do you remember them? They're like cardboard things, and you have to move the. It was before the internet, right? This makes me feel really old.
So obviously, I don't remember them.
You don't. In Shoot magazine, which was the top football magazine, at the start of the season, they used to give away the league ladders, and you had to collect it over a series of weeks. And it was basically a cardboard frame, and then you got the cardboard team names, and you could move. After every group of matches, you changed the league table. So you basically
so passionate about this.
Yeah, so you had, and I loved it as a kid. Absolutely loved it, right? And when I tweeted to Joe, oh yeah, I've got these shoot league ladders, and then I started going, actually, that's not a bad idea. Maybe I should make some league ladders of the mini league. And I'm starting to think, actually, I might actually do it, which is really worrying. But anyway, as I said, I'm not the form manager.
Just in the background, like
shaking her head, cutting out the cardboard team names. Magnus has moved above Neil Rigg. No, I can't do it, can I? You were the top scorer this week in the Great and the Good. And over the last 5 weeks, this is from Greyhead, who runs this league, you have got the highest average, 69.6, over the last 5 weeks. I mean, what do you make of that? You are the form manager now.
I know, and look at me versus Late Riser. I mean, it was me and him down the bottom, finding it out between us. I'm nearly 100 points ahead of him now.
You pulled away.
Yeah, really pulled away. So Villa Ronca now just 5 points behind me. Tom Freeman, 8 points behind me. I'm looking at Joe, 17 points. So yeah, I'm hoping to have a strong end to the season, and mid-table would be just like Brighton. I'd be happy with a nice mid-table finish.
Absolutely. And in the lower table, my team value is the same as Magnus's now, 105.9. I'm more interested in team value. I'm all about the team value. But what's interesting, the top three managers, General, Fabio, and myself, have got the highest tallies from captains. So when we talk about the captaincy being important, it's there in black and white. It clearly is. And I mean, this season, I've definitely paid more attention to it and the methods I use to select my captain. And I think, Rafina shows that it is important. I got some points back on other managers because I went with the differential and it came in. So when we talk about captaincy tonight, bear that in mind. It is crucially important.
General's captaincy points is
incredible. Yeah,
9-6.
Yeah, that's it. He's very, very good at picking his captain, isn't he? And it shows in that, absolutely. Okay, let's look at this Ben Crellin fellow. He's on every week. I don't know what to do. I can't not mention his work. Yeah, this is Ben Crellin's latest.
Keep making the joke about him dabbling.
No, I'm not going to say that. But I would have liked to have been a fly on his wall at 6:31 last Friday when the fixtures came out. What to make of that? But anyway, this is the current situation. So the important thing to note is obviously we've got Gameweek 26, all these double Gameweek fixtures, and Az and I will go through them and do our best to predict them later in the show. And we know also that City and Southampton have got a double in 27 as well. So Southampton have got a single in 26, but a double in 27. City have got two doubles. And they've got 4 home fixtures across the 2 doubles. And what's also important here to note is there's a possibility, and a pretty good possibility, of a double game week in 28 as well, going the way of Everton and Aston Villa.
And that is key for why I'm thinking of bench boosting this week.
Is it? Explain why.
Because I can grab another Aston Villa player who has a double this week, and potentially has a double in 28. And it means that my bench is actually pretty strong this week. I'll have an extra double game week player, and a potential another double game week player for that week. So that was something that I didn't really have it in sort of as a possibility until I saw this chart. And I thought, oh, I didn't even realise that could happen. And it might not happen, but even if it doesn't happen, Villa have still got that game in 29, which I'd need anyway. And their fixtures are good. I mean, Wolves, Newcastle, and the game in 29, and then Fulham in 30. They've got a good run. The fixtures turn quite difficult towards the end of the season, but for now, Villa are actually quite a good team to target, even though they're a bit lost without Grealish and Cash.
They are a good team to target. The one thing that worries me is the bots have told me that Grealish might not be back for the Leeds game. So I'm not. Yeah. So I'm. Without Grealish, Villa are a different team.
But they've got Sheffield United.
True, but when he's Grealish back, I worry that when he's Grealish back, I worry that he's not going to be back anytime soon. I mean, Dean Smith has said that the Leeds game's looking unlikely, but I don't think he'll be back for any of the matches that follow. I mean, there was some discussion about the severity of the injury being a shin injury and 5 to 6 weeks.
Did you see the BBC Sport article?
No.
The headline was Grealish out for a month. That was the headline.
Yeah.
And then the actual article had absolutely no mention of anyone saying he was out for a month. In fact, it had Dean Smith saying, I think he'll be all right for the Leeds game.
Right. Well,
I'm hoping he'll be all right for the Leeds game.
I don't believe a word of it. I haven't got, because they've shut down the bots, I can't find out for sure. We're blind to it now. We haven't got that ability.
Don't you just put a call in?
Well, no, it doesn't work anymore. They don't answer.
They've let you down with Southampton.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So proves it. They're not answering my calls. They're putting fixtures out without telling me. It's outrageous. So yeah, I do worry about Villa when I'm looking at Watkins and even the defence as well, because I do think without Grealish there is more pressure on the defence. Grealish's presence obviously is greater in terms of an attacking threat, but I also think he makes a difference to how the opponent approaches Villa, and I think they're more likely to take risks against that defence with Grealish off the pitch. So I just think Villa are affected massively by losing him, and so I'm not too keen on investing, but in my wildcard team, which we'll see in a minute, I think you have to have at least one Villa player.
Well, what you just said is also another reason why the bench boost has come into my consideration, because I didn't fancy Leeds at home to Villa. Right. I thought that could be quite a tight game. Actually, from what I've seen from Leeds against Southampton and from what I saw from Villa against Leicester, actually I think the Leeds could get a couple of goals in that game.
Oh yeah.
So I didn't really want to play the bench boost this week, but it almost feels like everything's kind of falling into place for it to be used. I mean, I wrote the article on Scout this week and at the time I was like, I'm not even really considering it. But the last 24 hours have actually been, a bit eye opening. So it'd be interesting to know what the press conference says, what Dean Smith says about Grealish. But yeah, I do actually fancy Leeds in that game, and then Villa have the double potential next double coming up, so it's more tempting.
No, absolutely, and there could be further doubles in 32. I'm not going to dwell too much on that. The likelihood of that depends on the FA Cup quarter-final and the result between Man City and Everton. We'll look at that in future weeks as well. I don't think we have to plan that. I mean, I'm going to be wildcarding in 30-31 anyway, so it doesn't affect me. I think a lot of people are going to be doing that. But yeah, just bear that in mind. There could be another double game week for Everton. And possibly Southampton. It's unlikely.
We might have a joint wildcard stream.
Are you going to wild card on 31? Are you?
Either 30 or 31. Probably 31.
A joint wildcard stream would be a first and probably a last. But yes, talking about wildcards,
it'd be a first. We've only had one wildcard.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's absolutely true. Yeah. Let's look at this is your dummy wildcard. We'll call it dummy wildcard. And this is what you put together. So talk a bit about this, because you've got the one Villa player in there. You've actually got 3 Villa players. You've got Martinez, Steer, the lesser seen Jed Steer, and Matt Target as well. So what was your thinking here? This is what, do you want to talk through it for the podcast? We'll talk through the team first of all.
Sure. So the wildcard team I put together is Martinez in goal and Steer just as the backup. Luca Dean, Dallas, Pereira, Cancelo and Target. And then De Bruyne, Gundogan, Fernandes, Lookman, interesting one, Barnes, and then Calvert-Lewin, Bamford and Kane. And I mean, obviously, like I said, I did the article on Scout where I went through different chip strategies and different teams and things people consider. It's hard to pick a wildcard team because everyone's strategy is different. If you've got the free hit, your wildcard team is going to look different to someone who doesn't have the free hit because you haven't got to take into account the Gameweek 29 games. But essentially, this gives you six players already for that Gameweek 29 game, and then you've got 3 transfers to make. So I think if you're going into the fixtures don't look great. Let's be honest. I think Leeds and Fulham could have some goals in it, but everything else looks a bit hard to predict. So I think if you're going into that game with 9 players, 10 players, I think you're probably fine. I don't think you need to take massive hits or kind of this week is really the week to target. So yeah, I mean the interesting ones here I think are De Bruyne over Salah. I think De Bruyne had the rest last night, which I think makes him an even better option. They've got 2 doubles in a row coming up. Is he going to play all 4? No. Is any City player going to play all 4? No. Probably back the one that has had the full rest in this game. I mean, what do you think about De Bruyne? How many games do you reckon he'll play? I reckon he'll get 3.
This is it. Because in my wildcard team, I haven't gone De Bruyne, but it was a choice between De Bruyne and the player I went for because I wanted at least 1 slot, maybe 2 for differentials, right? And at the moment, I look at De Bruyne as a potential explosive differential over these 2 games. They've got 4 home games. I think he will get 3. I think he will get 3 starts.
No, I think he'll get 3. Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think really, I mean, the kind of the 2 players this week that I'm really looking at are Kane up front. You're going to talk about him plenty, so I won't go on too much about him. I just think he's a great option this week. But De Bruyne as well, he's being overlooked. And I think if you've got a wild card, if you've got a free hit, because most people have got 3 City players anyway, so it's quite hard to switch those out and then work out how to get him in. You can't just do Salah to De Bruyne, for example, for a lot of people because they've got those 3 City players already there. So if you're wildcarding or free hitting, though, I think De Bruyne is a shoe-in because you target these 4 games and think this is a guy who can get me some serious returns. So yeah, I really like the look of him. But I really like Dean, and I've got him in my own team. Really happy to have him. He seems to be quite a big differential. He'd be a shoe-in for this. But Pereira as well. Like, what do you make of him? I mean,
interesting.
So advanced against Villa.
Yeah, but that's because they were doubling up. That's because they hadn't got the bot information and were doubling up on Grealish who wasn't there. That's why. Yeah, it's. I don't know. I worry about Pereira. I do think that. I don't know if he's a nailed-on starter when he's fully fit, but I do wonder whether or not that he's going to get every game. And it's the position. Yeah, I don't think we can take it for granted he's going to be in that advanced role.
Oh, I think he's a good pick at right back. He's a good pick at right wing back, yeah. And he's a good pick at right wing.
Yeah, he's a good pick. Oh, absolutely.
I think he's great.
He's a good pick, and the Leicester defence is a funny one. I've not got a good relationship with the Leicester defence in that I seem to get on them, and then they go for a run of conceding silly goals.
Sorry, James Justin.
Yeah, he did well for me. He did well for me a couple of weeks, but that's mainly because he somehow gets bonus points. I think with Pereira there. Pereira's another bonus magnet. He does win tackles and gets crosses in, right? And that's going to be key. I think he's a good pick. Yeah, 5'9" is quite expensive, I think, for a Leicester defender is the only thing I would say. And I have gone a different setup. My team is very, very similar, but I've gone a different setup. Let's look at mine. Because I have gone... I
haven't seen this.
You haven't seen it. And the thing is, when yours came in, I was like, oh, it's very similar to mine. So I've got the same front three. Let's go through my team. Martinez in goal. Areola as my reserve goalkeeper. I'll talk about that in a minute.
Come on.
That is a switchable position. Target, Dallas, Dina, Cancelo, Diaz, Gundogan, Fernandes, Mane, Barnes, Lookman, Calvert-Lewin, Bamford and Kane. So the same front three. Barnes and Lookman the same. Gundogan the same. Fernandes the same. So the only difference really in our teams is I've gone the 2 City defenders. I've kept faith with that. And that meant that if I wanted to go, I could go Salah, of course. But I was thinking, well, if I was wildcarding now, would I go Salah? In my position, or in any position, unless I was in the top 10, I would probably go with something different. And obviously you've gone De Bruyne. And I looked at that. I definitely looked at that. So I've just gone Mane. Well, I mean,
Mane's such a bad pick. It's
not a bad. I don't think it's any worse than Salah, apart from he's on penalties, right? But I think
it's much worse than Salah.
Why do you say that? Why do you think he's...
Well, he's not been performing particularly well. He hasn't got the insurance of the penalties. And he's so expensive.
Oh, yeah, but he's not as expensive as Salah. I think the only major difference between Salah and Mane is the penalties. That's been the major difference this season. Form is difficult. So. It's difficult to track form. Do you think that Mane is generally off form?
I think he is, yeah. I think Salah's been, just general performance-wise, I think Salah's been far ahead of Mane for a while now. I think, and if you'd asked me at the start of the season in terms of who's most important to Liverpool, I think it would be really close, because I think, obviously Salah brings the goals, but Mane is an absolutely brilliant player. But this season he hasn't been delivering on what I think.
He did have that spell where he looked clearly the one in form, and then he seems to have gone back into his shell again. I can't explain it, but what the thing between Salah and Mane is, I think it's very hard to track, to definitely say for any prolonged period that's the one to get. The only thing that makes you go Salah is the penalties. I don't think if neither of them were on penalties, I think we'd be flip-flopping quite regularly based on what we perceive as form, right? So I think that's the thing.
He's on my wall, Mane, because a couple of seasons ago I swapped Salah out for him and he changed my season around. But I don't look at them now and think Mane is that far ahead of Salah that change makes sense to me.
Well, the only I just couldn't go Salah there, because I was thinking if I was wildcarding, I mean, I could afford Salah if I downgrade target, I think, to Konsa, right? Maybe I couldn't. Maybe that was a price thing. No, I think I had to to get Salah in, I had to sacrifice target and go somewhere like Dan Burn or something like that in Brighton. So I looked at it and thought, well, to be honest, I'd rather go a differential that could make a difference, an explosive differential like De Bruyne, or I'd have to go Mane. So I decided on that because I thought I want to opt to the two City defenders, because I think that's such a sure bet. But what isn't a sure bet is how many they're going to play. I think Cancelo and Diaz, like De Bruyne, will probably get 3 of the 4. I think the thing you get with Diaz is he's probably the most nailed on player after Ederson. So you might get 4 out of Diaz, right? So that's why I wanted Diaz. Cancelo, well, he's just incredible, and obviously 2 assists in Europe, and Pep talking about him after the game. I just can't see myself. I couldn't
sell him.
No, it's difficult.
No.
So I went with Diaz just because he's the most nailed outfield player for City, which meant I couldn't go De Bruyne, which meant it was either getting Salah and downgrading someone or taking a punt on Mane. And I just think, I agree. At this moment in time, I wouldn't go go Mane in front of Salah. But if you're playing the wild card and you want to make up ground, you've got to take a couple of risks. I think that's what it represents, really. You've gone De Bruyne, I went Mane. If I'd have gone the same as you, I mean, our teams would have been almost identical. Well, probably would have been identical.
I'm never picking Mane.
No, okay, fine.
The biggest thing I have with your wildcard, I can't understand why you'd pick Martinez and Areola.
The reason why is because it gives you security of having a Gameweek 29 keeper in case something happens, in case of an injury to Martinez. I had the money, so I could downgrade Steer. I could then. Come on. Well, no, I think it's quite important.
Really?
Yeah.
But so that by the same logic, you'd always start with 2 playing goalkeepers at the start of the season, but we don't.
I know we don't, but this is the wild card with 29 in mind. I mean, it's not like I've got to stick with this team the whole way. But I was just looking at it going, well, I quite like the idea of 2 playing keepers, and I think, the other option would be going someone like Steer and not having an active keeper. But I think
that's a lot of money. Like, think
it's
about
0.5. It's not that much money, but it's 0.5.
Well, it is. It is when you look at. Martinez 5.3 as a goalkeeper. You think at the start of the season, paying over 4.5 for a keeper is a lot of us are reluctant to do. Not only that, you're paying over 5, and you're getting in a backup 4.5 goalkeeper. I don't believe you do.
I think we've got money in the bank though, because I've got 0.3 in the bank with this team, and if I downgraded Areola to Steer. And then I went target to Konsa, I could afford Salah, right? So that was an option. But I just felt that, I don't think money is that much of an issue anymore. I mean, I look at that team and I don't think there's anything there I would need to strengthen. I don't think we need more than 3 heavy hitters in midfield now. And I think because Gundogan's come in and done what he's done, that's changed everything in terms of how much we need to spend in midfield. We no longer need Salah, Fernandes, Son, and KDB. which was a lot of teams were setting up like that. So you can go for those players, but I don't think you need to. So I think Gundogan, Barnes and Lookman, we all went for them. Both of us went for them, and I think they'll be popular players.
I'd go for Steer, Konsa and Salah over those three in a heartbeat.
Well, the other thing is it's using up a Villa slot, which I guess doesn't matter. But it did matter like earlier in the season when people had Steer. It was like, oh, I want to go free Villa, but I've got Steer. So that's the other thing. So I probably wouldn't go Steer. I'd go somebody else, just in case Villa come again. But their fixtures are pretty bad.
I think with Villa, you've got a limited window for them to come into effect because the fixtures do turn quite a lot.
Yeah, so they're bad towards the end. So this is the period where you'd want free Villa. I knew Mane would be controversial. That's why I put him in there as a talking point, because I just couldn't bring myself to go Salah. I was thinking, well, that's, Gundogan, Fernandes, Salah is too template. And I think I'd like to think if I was playing the wild card, I'd do something which was a little bit risky that could have an impact, like De Bruyne and like Mane. And you went.
It's why I like De Bruyne and Pereira, because I think they are two players who I think aren't going to be owned by a huge amount of people and could come in. Don't get me wrong, I like every other player. I think Dean's a player who I got in ages ago for the -8, and actually his biggest haul has been when I benched him against Liverpool this week. But I've got I said in my article, I wouldn't be surprised to see Dean be the highest scoring player in the whole game over this double game week. With fixtures against Southampton and West Brom, 2 clean sheets is a real possibility. If he's at wing back for both of those, I could see a couple of assists in those. I wouldn't, it's obviously I've jinxed him now. He's going to get sent off in the first game, but I think someone like that, we see defenders do well in these games anyway. I really, really like Dean for these two. The fixtures have fallen really well for him.
I'm totally with you. It's almost like you've read my mind, which is a bit depressing. But have you had some kind of bot come into my house and read my mind?
Mark Southern's insider.
It's got to be like that, isn't it? Let's talk about. It's him again, isn't it? It's him again. It's Ben Crellin again. We just cannot
not
get.
Ben Crellin again.
It is, yeah.
He doesn't even listen to us, I don't think.
I know,
Mark.
he probably doesn't. Does he even follow me on Twitter? Probably not. So I don't know why I give him the oxygen. I give him the oxygen because he's so bloody brilliant, unfortunately.
He is good.
Right, so I want to talk about triple captain opportunities because the triple captain is a chip I'm playing this week. We've just talked about the wildcard. A lot of people doing that as well. And I think it kind of makes sense to play the triple captain this week or the bench boost. You can't play both, of course, right? So I just want to talk about this briefly because Ben tweeted this out about the opportunities and the players that you could look at in 26. He's earmarked Bruno, Kane, Salah, and a Man City player. He's also hinted that, in 27, you can obviously back a Man City player in that game week when they've got United and Southampton. The thing about City players is, though, can you reliably pick a player that's going to get both games? I guess if you think that, De Bruyne doesn't play against Wolves the second fixture, he should get both United and Southampton, I guess. But I don't know. With your triple captain, you want security, and I'm not sure that any City player is going to give you certainty of that. So that's why I wouldn't look at 27. 32, there could be a double game week there, but it's only speculation at the moment. It's very likely, I think, that Everton get a double game week. If Man City beat them in the Cup, I think Everton will get a double game week in 32. Spurs, rather. So that will be Everton and Southampton for Spurs. So you could look at Kane and Son there. Everton and Southampton, it's quite similar to what they've got with Burnley and Fulham this week, I guess. And then there could be a double game week in 37, but you're delaying your triple captain to that stage and anything could happen there. Possibility of Spurs having Villa and Southampton, but only if Everton beat Man City in the Cup. So as a window to play the triple captain, I think 26 is the right time for me. I don't like all the speculation. I don't like City in 27. I know there are other double game weeks to come, but I think I want to get it out of the way this week. What's your thoughts on it? You sound like you could be bench boosting instead.
I think if you're not bench boosting, you have to triple captain this week.
Right.
If you've got it, obviously, it goes without saying. I think there's potential, and there's potential for lots of different players to do well. The key decision is getting the right one, and that is a proper hashtag insight comment. That's
the kind of content we love.
That is what people pay for. But yeah,
not pay for.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah, the thing is, I did a tweet about this the other day, and what I can't understand is people saying they would captain like a reliable player who they think is going to get them, steady points like Fernandez. But they're triple captain someone who could get amazing points like Calvert-Lewin. And the logic of that just really, really blows my mind. Surely you just look at this week and just say, who do I think is gonna got the most potential? Calvert-Lewin's got 2 easy games. I'll go for him. Kane's got, look quite good and whatever. I just can't understand like changing your strategy based on whether you're captaining or triple captaining. To me, it's the same. It's the same. And I'm wanting to get your thoughts on it, because I don't know if I'm looking at too basically, but I can't separate the two.
It's almost like
just a captain. But
it's almost like there's more at stake with the triple captain, isn't there? You almost feel like you want to be more conservative in terms of you want more certainty if you're going to play the triple captain. So I think it's to do with, there's more about the floor than the ceiling for me. I look at it and go, yes, this player might get more points, but this player is absolutely certain to play, and he's going to play 90 minutes in both games, and he's on penalties. So it's almost like you want to look at the certainties for the players. And someone like, I'm trying to think of it, like Calvert-Lewin is a good example. He's not on penalties, but he's going to play both games. He's going to play 90 minutes, so perhaps he's not the best example. But you know what I mean? It's like the thing about Bruno, Salah, maybe Salah to a lesser, the thing about Bruno and Kane is they're definitely going to play, and they're on penalties, and they're probably going to play 90 minutes in both games. And there's something about those attributes that make them more attractive when you're playing the triple captain than when you're playing the captain. I don't know why that should be, but it is a psychological thing, I think.
Well, I mean, my things are, firstly, I think the triple captain is the weakest chip that we have. I think disaster, 2 points, like I got from Kane a few weeks ago. Probably best case scenario, 20 points. So between your best case and your worst case, from one chip, a chip that you get to play once in a whole season, you're looking at 18 points between it. It's nothing. The other thing is, I think people have a very weird view of the triple captainship, and we argued about this a little while ago. I won't get into all of it, but I still see it happening on Twitter. People saying that, there was someone on Twitter, I can't remember exactly who it was. Apologies if you're listening, but they said their Foden 11-point captain was much better than Bamford 8-point captain because of the effective ownership of Foden compared to Bamford. And it's nonsense. I don't care. I know we've argued about it. I don't care what anyone says. It's complete nonsense. He would have captained Foden anyway. So Foden, his triple captainship has got him 11 points from Foden. Doesn't matter about effective ownership. That's how much that chip has got him. You look at Bamford, he got 180% effective ownership. That chip's got me 8 points. So yes, Foden has outscored Bamford on the triple captain, but by 3 points. We're not talking about... He's talking about 30 points or whatever. It's not, because you would have captained him anyway. And that's the difference. The triple captain is deceptively, looks like it can get you absolutely massive hauls, but you would have captained that player anyway. So it's only adding an extra third on to it. So I really don't think there is a massive problem if your triple captain only gets you between 8 and 12 points. I think that's a good return for that chip. And I think people are going to be disappointed and they are disappointed, because we see it season after season when their players only get them 5-6 points or miss a game or get injured. Like, look at Mane last season. He plays the first game and gets injured. It's an absolute... It's a horrible chip to play and get right.
Yeah.
So I do agree, but I think, I just see it as you play that chip when you think whatever player that you're going to captain anyway has got the best chance of returning. So if you're going to captain Calvert-Lewin this week because you like the look of those 2 fixtures, give him the triple captainship. It's a good option. Equally with Kane, you think he's in good form, you think Spurs are doing quite well, Bale's in the team, Ali's playing, is he a good option? If you're going to captain him, give him the triple. You don't need to change your strategy based on playing the chip or not, and you definitely don't need to take effective ownership into account. Just play on who you think is the strongest pick. That's what I think anyway.
Yes, and I'm not going to get into that argument because it blew my mind completely, because I was very frustrated and it all happened on WhatsApp, and I'm sure you got screenshots of it. And
you got involved in there.
Oh, it was awful. Slippers got involved, and it was all getting a bit personal, and I don't want to get into that. But it wasn't getting personal. I'm just joking. But it was funny actually. It was quite funny because I just I didn't.
There's people in the
couldn't
chat
get my head
now
around
saying,
I know.
that my maths is off. It's not off.
I know.
The chip is only worth the third. It's not worth the whole thing.
To win the argument, you even got Joshua Ball involved on Twitter, who was
on the fence.
last year's winner, who is a mathematician, as in desperation to get it confirmed that he was correct, sought out the only mathematician he knew in the FPL community to help back him up. And actually, Josh was really quite, he was like, well, Mark is right as well a little bit, and Ash is right a little bit. So I was like, I'll take that.
I was very. The thing is, obviously, if you hand your triple captain to a player like a differential, and you see the triple captain's this thing that you've got to give to a differential, and that's going to change your season. Like, okay, that kind of element has to be taken into account. But at the same time, you could have just captained that differential player and still got 2/3 of the points that you would have got from your triple captain. And that's what people, I think, seem to get confused with.
Yeah. Maybe
you're still captaining that player.
I'd like to genuinely know if people are saying right now, if I was just captaining, I'd go for that player. But because I'm triple captaining, I'm going for that player. Now, I'm not doing that. I think I'm picking the player that I was going to captain in this game week anyway. It was always the plan to captain this player. So I'm triple captaining the player I always plan to captain. But I wonder whether there are people out there who are actually saying, well, because I'm playing a triple captain, I'm going with this player.
Yeah. And there probably are, to be fair. And you might see it on like the last day of the season, for example. People might save their triple captain for the final day and just have a final like flurry. But at the same time, it doesn't matter when you play it. At the end of the season, you will look at, statistically, you'll look at this everyone's season, and I'll say, Mark, you played your triple captain on Kane. He got 13 points. Your triple captain got you 13 points. As you played your triple captain on Bamford, he got you 8 points. Your triple captain was worth 8 points. And there'd be 5 points different in it. Not the 26, 27, 28 points. That's the only bit I have a problem with. That's what it's worth. It's worth whatever that player gets. It doesn't matter about ownership.
I'm not getting drawn in.
That's my rant.
I'm not getting drawn into it. But what we're going to do, we're going to look at the captaincy now, this point in the show. We're going to do it before the predictions and everything, right? We're going to start looking at the captaincy now. Right, because it's important, because the chip's in play for me, and I'm sure others out there as well. So this is the usual table that we do, and it's sorted by minutes per expected goal involvement, non-penalty, and it shows Calvert-Lewin out in front, 140.6. So over the season, he is the top rated of the candidates we've selected. And for the podcast, we've selected Calvert-Lewin, De Bruyne, Salah, Fernandes, Gundogan, Kane, and Son. Now, there are others. Vardy you could throw in there as well, but I've chosen to exclude Vardy. Madison's injury kind of puts Scout, and Vardy's form's not been brilliant either, so I've left him out of the equation. But of those candidates, Calvert-Lewin's out in front, 140.6 minutes per expected goal involvement.
With the best fixtures?
Yes.
Arguably.
Right. Well, if you look at the tables below, the defences over the season, Southampton and West Brom, who are Calvert-Lewin's opponents, have in terms of minutes per expected goal conceded, non-penalty, are the worst, if you like, or the best, 130.6. So they concede goals, non-penalty goals, at a faster rate than any of the other combinations for our candidates. So Calvert-Lewin has the best data in terms of expected goal involvement going into this match, and also plays the teams that over the season have got the most propensity to concede expected goals as well, right, in terms of Southampton and West Brom. So best fixtures, best data on the surface. What's your thoughts on that? Your hot take?
Well, my hot take is that I don't think there could be a better double game week for anyone than Everton's double game week this week. I think not only have they got Southampton at home, but it's a Southampton without Romeu because he's injured. It's a Southampton in really bad form, conceding goals over the place. And it's an Everton team who've got all their main players back and fit. And then it's West Brom, who correct me if I'm wrong, seem to have been worse at home, like we've seen. And okay, they're fighting for their lives. But, I mean, Everton absolutely dismantled them earlier in the season. And I think West Brom were unlucky against Burnley. Well, they were unlucky against Burnley with 10 men. But at the same time, I fancy anyone to score against them. So purely fixture driven, I really, really like Everton's double game week here. I think it's great. The issue to me is and it's really. I mean, I've been hard on Spurs I've been harsh on Spurs. You know I've been harsh on Spurs. Everyone has me down as this big Spurs hater. I was really impressed with them against West Ham when Bale came on. West Ham winning that game is an unbelievable result for them. But Bale came on and changed the game, and he was brilliant. I thought Kane was brilliant. They were so unlucky not to score and equalise or go and get the win. We saw again in the Europa League, they've got Ali coming back. Even though the results haven't been great, there does seem to be something happening a little bit with Spurs. And I really like the games they've got against Burnley and Fulham. I mean, it's FPL Swede on Twitter who said, and this is in my article, that Kane hasn't blanked against the bottom 8 all season and averages 9 points.
I've got stuff.
I'm guessing that's coming.
I've got stuff on that.
But that is huge. I think triple captain wise, it's between those two. They would be the only two that I'd be considering.
Yeah, I absolutely concur. I think Fernandes has to be in the conversation because he is Fernandes. But
it's that Chelsea game though. I just can't see that being.
This is it. Chelsea play a very important role in this double game week because they play both Liverpool and United, and so that is Salah and Fernandes, the two big hitters, if you like, in midfield. But there's no question that Salah and Fernandes are the elite. I think they're out on their own at the moment. Salah less so perhaps recently, but you've got to say at the end of the season we're gonna probably go into next season well, Salah and Fernandes will be the top price players next season. I would have thought maybe Fernandes at 13 mil, Salah at 12.5 or whatever, but I would have thought they're going to be the top rate. And Chelsea play them both. So Chelsea's defence is the form defence in the league. I mean, if we go to the stats here and we look at defensive data, over the last 4 matches, this table shows Chelsea are still out in front as the best defence. Minutes per expected goal conceded, 149.4. And over the season, they're second only to Man City. So that Chelsea defence has got to be a consideration when we consider Salah and Fernandes. We don't know what those two players can get out of that game. It's very difficult to predict. But we know it's a tough fixture. We can't doubt that, right? It is a tough fixture. But Salah then goes to Sheffield United, who have got no defence at the moment because they've got so many injuries.
Yeah.
And Fernandes goes to Palace, and Palace are in trouble as well. I mean, they obviously got the victory against Brighton, but anyone can win that game.
Can we just quickly touch on the Palace victory against Brighton?
I'm getting some echo there. Sorry. There we go. I think you're muted. I see. Muted you in Zoom. Sorry. What was that? Az? Go on, say that again.
I said, can we quickly touch on Brighton v Palace?
Quickly, you can moan. You can moan about the two touches in the box.
Just very quickly. Well, I think it's important when you're considering double game weeks because obviously they've got the game against Fulham and they've got the game against United. And if Palace play like they did against Brighton, in any game this season, they will lose 4-5-0 because they were awful. They defended well. I'm not Cahill. I mean, the commentator not giving Cahill man of the match, I think is a joke. I mean, Ayew was all over the place, but Cahill threw himself in front of about 3 or 4 kind of almost certain goals. So it seems to me with Bruno, he's got the worst game, or maybe the second worst game after City, with Chelsea, defending really well. But then I honestly think Palace could be the best game at the moment for any team to have, because they can't do that. They cannot play in the way they played against Brighton. But not only that, in the way they've been playing in loads of games leading up to it. There just doesn't seem to be any quality about them. There doesn't seem to be any real defensive resilience about them at all. And for Brighton to have lost that game is one of the most ridiculous things I've ever seen in football, ever. Honestly, it blows my mind.
The thing is, I didn't watch the game. I just looked at your messages coming in on WhatsApp, and I didn't really have to watch the game because I could imagine exactly what was happening from that and my knowledge of what Brighton have been like this season. You were probably all over them, restricted them to a couple of chances, and you just couldn't score. And that's
it was the thing is it wasn't Palace playing particularly well and being this really solid defensive unit. Right. It was fundamental problems with Brighton and the way we've been all season in terms of how we attack, how we are in the final third, the mentality around the box and outside the box and inside the box with Mopé, Lallana. a team more clinical on that day would have had 6.
So what does that make
Guaranteed.
you think about Fernandes then? Is it purely the Chelsea fixture that you think that will restrict him?
It makes me think he's a good option, and he's someone who, if he did manage to get an assist or something against Chelsea, you'd be quite happy with that, then going into the Palace game where he could then get a big return. But with Calvert-Lewin and Kane, with such good... I mean, Kane, for example, Kane could easily get 2 goals, a goal in each and 3 bonus in both games. And then you're looking at an 18-point haul, if he gets 9 points in both. Like, to say Kane won't score in either of those 2 games is crazy. Whereas I think with Bruno, you are very reliant on the haul coming in that Palace game. And I think that's what makes Kane such a good pick, because I think he will get something from both of those 2 games. Calvert-Lewin, Everton in general are a very, very difficult team to get right. I mean, look at Newcastle. Newcastle, I backed them really heavily to win that, and they were awful in that match. They have games where they just don't look right, and Spurs on occasion don't look right, but Kane does, and Kane does deliver. So that's what makes me lean towards Kane for my pick as well. I think Fernandes is decent.
As well,
but
you don't know what I'm thinking.
Yeah, sorry. Oh, we are spoilers. Mark loves Kane. But yeah, no, I don't know. I just think Fernandes is a safe pick, but I think you are reliant on that second fixture. Whereas Kane or Calvert-Lewin, you could get something from both games.
The thing is, the data here appears to support Calvert-Lewin in terms of the expected data. Minutes per shot, you look at Kane and it's 23.5 and Calvert-Lewin's 32.6. So Kane wins out there. Minutes per point, Kane wins out again, 12.4 to 14.5 for Calvert-Lewin. But the expected data is a problem. But I brought this up on Twitter in the week. With expected data, we've got to bear this in mind, that Kane and Son are just complete outliers. And we touched on this earlier in the season when they were flying in the early game weeks. Not a lot has changed. This table here shows the expected goal involvement delta. So that is the difference between their actual goal involvements, that's goals and assists combined, and their expected goal involvements. And in terms of that difference, Son and Kane are the top 2 players in the Premier League. So they have exceeded their expected data by the biggest margins for a goal involvement. And so when you look at expected data and you go, well, Calvert-Lewin's clearly better than Kane, or this player is clearly better than Son, you've got to be wary of this, because it's extraordinary. You can't explain it. I mean, Son does this quite often. He does it season after season. Kane does to an extent, but not quite as much as he's done this season. But these 2 are just players that they don't need a lot of good quality chances to score goals. And we've seen it all season. I haven't had Son all season, and watching matches, I've been sitting there thinking, oh, this is comfortable. Son's not getting any near the goal. It's fine. Then like that, bang, goal out of nothing.
Well, I've said it before. I think they're the 2 best finishers in the league, without a doubt. If you're backing any player in the league to score a chance, then I would back those 2. It's amazing they both happen to play for Spurs. I would probably have put Aubameyang in that category before the season, but he's having a difficult time of it. So yeah, I mean, it's not surprising to see they would overperform on these different things. I mean, Son, I think, has been really underwhelming for ages now. His points do, his stats do. Yeah, I own Son and I sold him for Rashford, and it's Kane that I really want. And actually, when I looked at Kane against West Ham when Bale was on the pitch, I saw a different beast, and that is the play you want when you've got Kane. So I think that the thing that really frustrates me with Spurs is that I look at the players they've got, and I don't think they have the ability to defend well at all. So like Mourinho's tactics of like everyone drop deep and defend and all this stuff. You're looking at like Dyer and Aurier and Kane and Sissoko and all these players, and it's like, no, go out and score some goals.
Yeah,
and it's what they did for like when the most successful period of this season. They were scoring bucket loads of goals.
Look at their fullbacks: Aurier, Doherty, Reguilon. I mean, apart from Ben Davies, he's the only one I would say is a regular, solid defensive fullback. The other 3 are all attacking fullbacks that are better suited to wing-back roles, if anything.
Yeah.
So you're not going to create a solid foundation. Yeah, exactly.
Attack some games.
Very difficult to create a solid foundation with fullbacks like that, unless you've got Virgil van Dijk, which they haven't. They've got Dyer and Sanchez and Alderweireld, right? Who are good.
God.
They're good defenders, but they're not solid enough to support a back four with attacking fullbacks to the extent that Reguilon and Aurier and Doherty are.
Yeah.
Right. So I think they'll always have trouble defending, unless they really are negative further up the pitch, like you're seeing Kane dropping into midfield. I mean, I think the last 3 or 4 games, the last 3 games since his injury, Kane has played different. Against West Ham, in both halves, he didn't drop into midfield areas. He was almost leading the line.
That's what I saw as well.
And
he was perfect way of saying it, a striker leading the line. That's what I saw.
And now we haven't seen that. We've seen him come deep and try and play Son in. And maybe Mourinho's just gone, look, people are figuring this out now. They're going to pick you up in midfield and we're not going to get the joy that... I mean, I was amazed that it was still working. You know, after that Southampton game, I was amazed that any Premier League manager didn't go, right, well, we've got to stop that. We're not going to fall for that.
It hasn't been working. That's
well, it hasn't been working recently,
so
but it worked. It worked for a good 10 weeks after the Southampton game.
Yeah.
And then suddenly, obviously, the Kane injury interrupted things as well. But since he came back, it looks like there's been a bit of a tweak. And he's either told Kane to get on the shoulder of the last defender, or Kane's gone, I'm going to do this now. Maybe he's fitter. Maybe that little break gave him a bit of a rest. I don't know. But I do see Kane differently now. And that has affected Son as well, I guess. So yes, I mean, the other thing you mentioned is Kane against the weaker teams, and this is quite ridiculous. These are his game weeks against the bottom 8 this season, and he hasn't blanked in any of them. No blanks against the bottom 8 this season. Every single game he's returned in, which is, you know, extraordinary. And in terms of his total points as well, so he's gained 51.6 of his total points in these 9 games compared to, I think it's the 13 that he's played. I think he's played 22 matches because he had the injury. So he's got half his points in less than half of the matches against the bottom 8, and the same for the other points here: goals, assists, bonus, all over 50% against the bottom 8 of his totals. So there's no doubt he's a flat track bully. That's confirmed. So you've got to think that Burnley and Fulham, bottom 8 teams, if he's going to stay, if his pattern continues, he will get returns in both games. He should do.
Well, V Buckley 2004. I really hope that's not your birthday, because that really does make me feel old.
Could it? It could be, yeah.
It must be. It says only 1 goal in each, apart from 1. Yeah, but
good point.
In a double game week, if you get 1 goal in each and bonus, you're looking at 20 points. This is the thing, because Kane gets bonus.
Which brings me on to this, yeah.
If you're banking on a player getting a goal in each, that is an absolutely outstanding captain pick.
And this is interesting. Well, this is what we did with Rafinha, Bamford and Ings last week. We looked at game week pairs.
He says it's not his birthday. That's good.
Okay, I'm good for that. He should be in bed. So we looked at game week pairs, and we did that with Bamford, Rafinha and Ings, as I said. And I've done the same with Fernandes, Kane, Calvert-Lewin and Salah. And to be honest, there's not too much in it. So the yellow cells you see here are double figure returns in these game weeks. So Fernandes, if you group game weeks 2 to 3, 4 to 5, 6 to 7, 8 to 9 and so on, you see that he has only got 4 scores under double figures. And he's got some massive scores. He's got a 28 in game weeks 8 and 9 against Everton and West Brom. He's got a 29 against Leeds and Leicester in 14 and 15. So Fernandes, for me, of these 4, looks to have the bigger ceiling. But then you go across to Kane, and what strikes you there straight away is he's only failed to get double figures in 2 of these sets of game weeks. In game weeks 9 and 10, he got 6 points, and in game weeks 13 and 14, he got 4 points. And look at the opponents in 9 and 10 and 13 and 14. In 9 and 10, his opponents were City and Chelsea, and in 13 and 14, it was Liverpool and Leicester. So the only time...
You pull these out, don't you, Mark?
The only time that Kane has not returned double figures in game week pairings is when he's had elite opposition in both matches. In every other occasion, he's returned at least double figures. And similar to Bruno, he's got some big scores. He's got bigger scores more often, 23, 21, 21, 21, 20. Five figures of 20 or more compared to Bruno, who has got the 3. So for me, I look at this and I go, well, Kane not only looks to be the most consistent, but against opponents who aren't elite, it's almost a guaranteed double-figure return based on his form this season, based on his return this season.
This is why I think Kane is the best option, and Calvert-Lewin, I think does have a big ceiling. I think he's a player. He could get a hat-trick against West Brom. He could get 2 goals against Southampton. You could be looking at a massive haul. But also, I don't think you'd be too surprised if he blanked in both.
Well, that's what this shows.
It's the Everton kind of way. And I think if you're a real gambler and you're really wanting to throw stuff at it, I think Calvert-Lewin is a great pick.
Yeah, it shows here, doesn't it? Right? Because he has got...
Absolutely.
Well, how many has he got? He's got 6 double-figure returns in his sets of game weeks, but he's also got 4 where he's got under 10. Yeah. So it's feast or famine with Calvert-Lewin.
I think if you look at Calvert-Lewin and he blanks in both games, you say, I went for it, it didn't quite pay off. If you go for it with Kane, he blanks in both games, it would just blow my mind. I just can't see any world in which Kane blanks in against Fulham and Burnley. I think he gets a goal. He gets at least a goal in those 2 games. And that to me makes him the best captaincy option this week. So I'm with you, and it's why I'm looking to bring him in.
But are we biased? Are we coming into this with our minds made up, and then we're finding data and we're talking about stuff that represents? I think there's an element of that. Hands up, right?
I'm not biased because I don't particularly like Mourinho and his tactics.
No, we certainly don't, based on what you've said in previous shows. No,
I mean, I would be happy to find a reason to not bring in Kane or Son or any of their players, but I look at data like this. I mean, I hadn't seen this. This just reaffirms what I'd already thought, and I saw that game against West Ham. And I saw a thing about Bale. I don't think I saw it. It was commentary about Bale, and it was the commentator saying, Bale will never be fitter than this. This is Bale at his fittest. Like, you're not going to get a better Bale between now and the end of the season. This is it. And he comes on the pitch and he completely changes the game. And I know they didn't get the result, but they should have done. And then you look at the Europa League, he comes on again and scores. He doesn't look like a golfer.
And he's starting, isn't he? Right? He doesn't
look like a golfer.
He didn't start in Europe. He is starting these 2 matches, I think.
He looks like a Premier League player who wants to perform and wants to get goals.
What do you think that does? What do you think that does for Kane and Son?
I think it makes them better. It makes Spurs a more attacking, more play on the front foot. Let's not put Kane as centre back. Let's actually go and attack teams. It's clear. And when any team has got a front 3 of Kane, Bale, and Son, all fit, all in form, is arguably the best attack in the league, the best front 3 in the league. And I know you've got Firmino, Salah, Mane. I know you've got Aguero, Sterling, and Foden, or whoever you want to play there. But I think Kane, Bale, and Son is up there. Is completely up there.
It's hard to argue with that. Yeah.
It's just whether Mourinho has the drive to really push that front 3 and get them to score goals. But I think he does. I think at the moment he sees that as his best way to win games. And I think the next 2 fixtures are perfect for that. I think Kane is the standout.
Yeah, I mean that's the other thing about that it makes me feel positive about Kane is because I don't know what the reaction of having Bale in the team is, but the likely reaction is going to be they're going to be more attacking. I cannot see Bale. I think Bale starts. There's a signpost for that. The fact he didn't start in Europe, and it's hard to believe that Bale starts with Son and Kane, and Mourinho plays a game whereby it's like, oh, we're coming here to win 1-0, then we're going to sit and defend. I don't think that's possible with those 3 on the pitch. It's going to be, it doesn't make sense, does it? He might do. He might surprise us all and get an early goal, and then we're going to take it into the corner flag and waste time.
Bale's competing with Bergwijn. Bergwijn's rubbish. Bergwijn and Moura.
Moura had a great game, I thought, West Ham. I think Moura would be unfortunate to be dropped, I thought.
I just do not see Bergwijn or Moura as being like top 4 players. I've said it, Moura gave me one of the best moments I've ever seen in the Champions League with the hat-trick he scored against Ajax. It was one of the greatest moments I've ever seen in football. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think he should be in the starting lineup for a top 4 team, and I don't think Bergwijn's anywhere near. Bale is the elite player that they need. And I just think that though, if they're all fit, those 3 have to start.
A bit of a disclaimer.
If they're going to get anywhere near.
A bit of a disclaimer. You do have Gareth Bale bedspread and stuff like and curtains and stuff, don't you?
You're
a big fan of his, yeah. So,
and
so you are biased.
Obviously, I am very biased. I mean, I do love Gareth Bale. I mean, look at Luke. Luke's triple captaining.
I know
this week.
I know. And when he did it, I was like, "What's he doing here? This is a typical Luke move. No one's going to do that because it's a silly idea." And then I'm like, maybe not.
Actually, it's not so bad.
It's an ideal Maverick pick because I think he will start, and then you've got to think he'll have some kind of impact. And it is difficult to see Spurs going there and winning both those games 1-0 with Bale, Son and Kane as their front line. You've got to expect there'll be a bit more attacking output from them. And so,
the reason he likes Bergwijn and Moura is because they do more tracking back, and that's the problem he's had with Bale since he signed. Is like Bale is just out there to score, and he's not a kind of atypical Mourinho player because he doesn't do all the kind of dirty work. But I just think if he's going to offer that much more in attack, which they've been lacking, he has to play him.
Well, against opponents like Fulham and Burnley who are going to sit back, I think it's valid. I don't think that he'll play every game, but I think these two look tailor-made for him.
Exactly.
And I think the fact they sit back is probably bad news for Son, but good news for Kane, because I think Kane will get opportunities. And I mean, I look at Burnley as one. Burnley love to allow shots from outside the box. Bale, Kane, Son, I wouldn't be giving them shots from outside the box. So I think there could be some joy there, not in the box, but from outside.
And even Son's goal of the season last year.
I know.
Like people are saying, Son won't deliver against Burnley because they sit deep. Yeah, but when he takes on three
he
players,
went through them, didn't he?
10 times better than them. It doesn't even matter, does it?
So we'll see. Yeah. We'll see. But I'm expecting more from Spurs. So at the moment, I'm on Kane. It's going to take me a lot to talk me out of it. I was on Calvert-Lewin for a while when I saw this data. I had to go deeper and look at more to actually sway me back to Kane. But then the decision not to start Bale in midweek was also a factor for me because it's clear that he's going to start, I think. Right, predictions. I caught up with you again, didn't I? I overtook you a bit in this week, and it's pretty close. I mean, we're both just under the 50% prediction rate on
As I said, I'm happy with that.
Not bad, but I'm beating you 8-4 on correct scores, which makes a difference. But we've got a lot of fixtures to get through. Let's see how we get on.
Lucky.
It's pure luck. Let's see. 2 pages of fixtures to get through. Let's see if we can get through these quickly.
We did have a small bit of criticism last week.
Oh yeah, go on.
People would like to see some kind of ABBA system between us.
Okay. Yeah.
Them.
Okay. So all right, we'll do that then. Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah. We'll do that. I'll go first with Man City versus West Ham. I mean, West Ham are on form. They'll go there and they'll be confident. I don't think this is an easy game for City at all. So it's quite a difficult one to call. I think you see West Ham getting a goal maybe of all the teams that, and they're organised and they've got set pieces. They're going to be a big threat there. I think City might concede one here. I'll go 2-1.
Go 2-1. Yeah, it's a tricky one. I mean, when people are looking at bench boosts, I think myself included, obviously I've got Antonio, I've got Soufal, and it's tricky because they're good options for Gameweek 29. But if I'm looking to bench boost this week, they're awful options because they're away at City. And I think one of the reasons why I'm looking to maybe sell Antonio and Soufal is because I don't expect them to get anything in this game. So I will back the City clean sheet. I don't think it's going to be a huge victory for City. Probably a 1-0 or a 2-0, but I'll go for a 2-0. A 2-0 City.
Okay, Gary Lawrenson. You can go first on West Brom Brighton as it's your team as well.
I felt like I had quite a good handle on Brighton up until that Palace game. I think I predicted quite a few results for them. If Brighton lose this game, we are in big trouble. It's massive trouble because Fulham look really good, and if we lose this and Fulham get a result against Palace, which I think they will, it's not good. So it's so hard. I think Brighton will win this. I think we have to win this. I think it's 2 completely different styles. It's Sam Allardyce who's going to look for set plays. He's going to defend. He's going to look for a kind of a weakness on the counter-attack. I think Diane
he looks useful, doesn't he?
Is a good pick. And actually there was a tweet aimed at you which said, maybe are you considering, because you've done quite well in previous seasons with bringing in these kind of like relegation threatened teams and their strikers with something to play for. So I don't know if he's someone that you're considering.
Well, I mean,
getting in.
Just look at this. I mean, this is player data, and player data over the season, minutes per expected goal involvement on penalty. Dejan is now second. Now, normally that's a player who is second because they've played a few matches, but he's played enough games now where we can gauge his potential, and he's offering potential. There's no doubt. He's Antonio's up there, Cavani's up there, Madger, who's another player who's only just come in. So Madger and Diania are players that perhaps with double game weeks we should be considering. So yeah, he's looked more than useful, hasn't he? And he gives West Brom some hope, I think, that they could yet get one. Maybe,
I think they'll score.
Right. Yeah.
I do think they'll score. I'm going to back a Brighton win, and I'm going to back a 2-1, but there is some quite heavy bias there. I will put that disclaimer in. I just think we absolutely have to win this game. If we don't, obviously you say, West Brom obviously will also have to win. Everyone has to win every game, but I think there has to be, after that Palace game, there has to be an inquest into what went wrong. And I think Welbeck's going to start. I think he'll get the tactics right, and I think we'll win it. So I'm going to go for a 2-1.
I'm going to go for West Brom here, I think.
Oh,
I know. I think I've got
really?
to. I think I've got to. It's one of those fixtures where if you're going one way, I think I've got to go the other. And I do see enough in West Brom. I mean, they should have beaten Burnley. I mean, my clean sheets. I mean, I had.
But we should have beaten Palace.
Yeah, true. But they had 10 men and
that's true.
I mean, it was just extraordinary. Burnley were hanging on. When they got the sending off, when West Brom lost Ajayi to the red card, I was like, that's it. Pope and Tarkowski, clean sheet in the bank. There's no way West Brom, because basically West Brom have got to take a attacker off and they're going to have to just play on the counter and hope for a set piece. I was wrong on all fronts, because from that point on, West Brom were by far the better team. And we're all over Burnley, and Burnley were just desperate to hang on and claim a point. I couldn't believe how what I was seeing, and it was really touch and go, and I was very pleased to get the clean sheets. But West Brom, I think, have got enough about them to give you a problem. And I just think momentum is against you at the moment. I just think that Palace defeat could really hurt you. And I think they're going to win. I'm going to go 2-0 West Brom. Sorry, 2-0. Yeah, 2-0.
No
I'm going to go 2-0.
We're definitely scoring against West Brom.
All right. We'll see. Leeds, Aston Villa. I'll go first on this one. Grealish doesn't play. We know that. We've got reliable information. We're not going to say wherefore. No, we haven't. But Grealish doesn't play this game. Villa haven't looked great recently. And Leeds, I think, go into this game with a lot of confidence. Rafinha, arguably in the top 3 players in the Premier League at the moment on current form.
Yep.
His set pieces and his relationship with Bamford is blossoming all the time. I will go a victory for Leeds here by a 3-1.
Oh, wow, that's quite a comprehensive Leeds win. Yeah. I mean, it's, obviously. Do you know what? Last night I watched the Leeds documentary, Take Me Home. Bit of a weird documentary. It's or Take Us Home, whatever it is. Have you seen it?
Take Me Home, yeah. It's multiple episodes. Did you binge it? Did you do the whole thing?
It's two. It's two episodes.
Was it only
right?
2? Oh, I'm thinking it's more now.
Yeah,
okay.
it's just 2. It was. I don't think it was particularly enlightening. I think I found the Spurs one to be a bit more. I got a bit more insight into what goes on, sort of in the training ground and behind the scenes, all that kind of stuff. What I basically took from the Leeds documentary is that Pablo Hernandez is maybe the greatest player ever
in a championship.
They bring him off the bench, he just scores every game. Anyway, so it was. I know it's 2 seasons. It's obviously 2 seasons, but I think the second season was.
I was going to say there's multiple episodes when I watched it, but never mind.
Yeah, so no, I didn't see I only saw the second season, so it was just the championship promotion side, and that was 2 episodes. I can't remember what my point was, but yeah, I love Leeds now, and I love them for what they gave me with Dallas and Rafinha and Bamford. So you've got Beckham to beat Villa. So I'm going to go for a 2-1 Leeds. I don't think it's 3-1 seems quite comprehensive for them. I don't think Villa are suddenly going to be that bad and leaking goals. I think it's going to be quite a good game. I wouldn't be surprised to see a 1-1 or a draw, but I will back Leeds because of the fact that Cash and Grealish are out.
I mean, I think they have been letting teams have chances. Just Martinez has been saving them, and it's not been happening recently. He's been conceding, and I think that continue. Okay, Newcastle versus Wolves. Oh, dear me, that's if the garden centres were open at 8 o'clock on a Saturday, that's where I'd be. But they're not, sadly, and we can't go to the pub. So what do we do with this one? I'm going to be watching The Voice, aren't I? Newcastle Wolves then. Well, it's the knockout rounds. It's quite interesting. I will go with a Newcastle victory here. I'm just not a fan of Wolves. When it comes to predicting them, I don't know how I've been getting on. Maybe Pot Noodle can tell us. But I struggle seeing Wolves winning a game. Neto, obviously, aside. Their fixtures are really good soon, so I'm going to be paying more attention to them soon. But here, I think Newcastle need the result and they're desperate. 1-0 Newcastle.
Really? I can't see that. I can only see a Wolves win or a fluky Newcastle draw in this. Newcastle without Wilson. Newcastle are just such a painful team because you just don't know what you're going to get. I mean, against United, they were awful, but St Maximin was great and did loads of stuff for them. But then you look at the lineup and you see like Joe Linton starting up front and you're like, he is maybe the worst striker in the league. I don't think there's anyone worse than him. Maybe Benteke, but I don't think there's too much in it. I just don't back Newcastle to score. I don't really back Wolves to score either.
Go 0-0 then.
I'm going to go for a 0-0.
0-0 is a popular score with Wolves. I've gone for it often.
I'm going for a 0-0.
Right, okay. Palace Fulham, I can only see a Fulham victory. Because I concur with what you said. Palace look in a bad way. Fulham are the opposite. If anything, they've been playing really well over the last 6 or 7 games and haven't got the results they deserved always, but they're getting them now. Loftus-Cheek I love, Lookman I love as a player. Obviously they've got Madger up front now as a focal point, so they seem to have settled on him. You haven't muted there, Az. You haven't muted, that's all coming out.
I'm typing out. Sorry.
Palace, so I'll have to edit that out. That means I'll be up to the early hours editing out as he's typing. Does he appreciate it? Oh, I don't know. Anyway, right, Palace versus Fulham, back to that. I have to go a Fulham win, and I'll have to go by a 2-0 margin.
Yeah, and that was my thought as well. Can't see Palace scoring. Zaha's still out, I think. And like I said, if they play against Fulham like they did against Brighton, it's just not going to work. They can't get results playing like that. The goal. I can't even remember the striker's name. Matata.
What a goal!
Hakuna Matata. What a goal! It's absolutely outrageous, a back heel like that, and then Benteke scoring off the bench is absolutely ridiculous. But yeah, Fulham have been playing really well, and I can't see anything. Maybe a 2-0 is a bit much, but I'll go for a 1-0. I'll go for a 1-0 Fulham. 1-0 Fulham win.
Okay, I'll let you have Leicester Arsenal first.
Yeah, Leicester Arsenal, really, really good match. I think this is really exciting, and Arsenal have been a funny team in terms of the games they get. Leicester have also been quite funny in terms of they've dropped some points against like Leeds and against teams that you might expect them to get results against. So neither team's going to want to lose this, but it could be pretty big in the top 4 race. Leicester though, without Maddison, looks like he's got a hip injury. I think they've lost tonight in the Europa League as well. Whereas Arsenal have won, so they've got the boost from that. I think I fancy Arsenal.
Oof. Right.
I know. And rare. It's quite rare for me to say that. I'm gonna back a 2-1 Arsenal win.
Fair enough. I think Maddison's loss is a big deal for Leicester, a big deal for Vardy in particular. Vardy's record against Arsenal is stellar low, so I think that they'll look to him obviously to get something. I think Leicester score. I'm going to go a 1-1 draw. I don't think this is a high scoring game. And
you blame me for being conservative. And
but I think Arsenal are like that as well. They're very difficult to predict, and I just think Leicester. If Maddison was playing, I'd back Leicester to win this. But No.
Do you think Barnes is a less attractive option without Maddison in the team?
To a degree, yeah. I mean, Maddison's going to impact the attacking potential of any team, right? If he's missing, I think, yeah, Barnes has been more of a threat and a focal point than Vardy in recent weeks for me, from what I've seen. Yeah. So I think he's probably now the most likely source of goals at the moment, the way he's playing. But I do think Leicester will struggle to break down teams without Maddison there. Arteta will know how to set up. He's not silly. He'll set up to counter Leicester, and I think it'll be a difficult game for them to win. So 1-1 is what I'm going for.
I think with Maddison, Leicester potentially win that game, but I think he's a massive loss because I think Arteta's got the Arsenal defence actually decent. Like you saw it against Leeds. I mean, a lot of people were backing a Leeds to score, lots of goals against them, and I know they did, but Arsenal had kind of already won the game before that kind of happened. So I think Arteta's. I think this is a good game for Arsenal.
He's getting there, isn't he, Arteta? He's starting to convince me.
I think so. I like him.
Okay, Spurs Burnley. Right, we're both going in with Kane, captain. Is this the game you think he's going to return heavy in?
Someone once said on a chat, every time man says it's difficult, they need to have a shot. So I don't want to say that, although I have just said it. So
one of our viewers is very drunk out there at the moment. That's the case.
That's true. It's tricky though.
You've said that a lot tonight as well.
Have I? Maybe I should go back to it's difficult. I don't know what team Mourinho's going to play. That's the thing. I think it depends on how he does set up for both of these games against Burnley and Fulham. My instinct is that he's going to try and attack these, and I think it is going to be the front three that we mentioned. And if he does put that front three into effect, I think it's going to have too much for Burnley and Fulham. So I'm going to back a Spurs win, and I'm going to back a 3-0 Spurs win in this.
Yeah, that's the scoreline I had.
Comfortable.
That's the scoreline I had as well. So I'm going to go 4-0. Why not? I think if an early goal goes in, that's it. I mean, I think they'll overrun them because I don't think if they get the early goal, Mourinho will be conservative here. I think he's letting Bale off the leash, and I think that's a signal, right? If he starts Bale, I think that's a signal. He's going, forget it, just do it, attack, play the football you want, go and do it, go and influence the game, Bale, and play attacking football, and let's see if it works. Let's see if we don't lose 4-3.
Exactly. What's he got to lose?
Like we did at Everton.
It's not working. It's not working.
Everton
what
in
he's
the
doing
cup
at the moment.
Everton in the cup showed that they lost 5-4, and he didn't like it. You could see he was like, "Oh, we'll play attacking football. You lose 5-4." But I think he's got to a point where he's going, "I can't stop this now. I've got to do it. I've just got to go for it." So I think if they get the early goal, floodgates, I think here, I will go 4-0 to Spurs. I mean, if it is, and blimey, we should be quids in with Kane. I think there's a danger that it could be. I think it is. Okay, Chelsea, Man United. I'll let you go first on this one.
The chat is not happy with those predictions, by the way.
Okay,
they think we are hugely
having
biased.
A laugh. All right.
Having a laugh, yeah. That's biased talking. Lots of things. Chelsea United. This is the easiest prediction for me. I honestly think any big game like this with United playing is a 0-0. There you go. That's my answer. 0-0.
You think 0-0?
Every game I've watched of United in a big match has been awful. It's been awful. It's been boring. They've tried to stifle each other out. I think a 0-0 probably suits both teams, given where they are. That's it. 0-0.
Okay.
Boring.
Just going back to Burnley, normally I would think, Burnley don't lose games 4-0. But I saw West Brom and I saw them nearly beat them with 10 men. That's what makes me think it could be a big score. I don't think Burnley are as sound defensively as their data shows. I mean, the last four opponents, if you look at the last four games they're played against teams who shouldn't cause them many problems. That's why their data looks impressive recently. But I haven't watched them against West Brom, and I'll be taking Pope into that game, so I'll have him in goal. So I don't want it necessarily to be 4-0. But Chelsea United, I don't think it'd be 0-0. I think United. This is because Chelsea are a different team now. I think the Chelsea of old.
You're going to say it's difficult, aren't you?
You would pick United to win this quite easily against Lampard's Chelsea. I think against Tuchel's Chelsea, it's very different, isn't it? Because he's got them a much more robust, solid unit now. I don't think they concede much ground. You've gone 0-0, have you?
I've gone 0-0, yeah.
1-0 Chelsea.
Really?
Yeah, I'll go 1-0 Chelsea. I
said with a lot of confidence.
Yeah, I think it's very, very tricky to call this one. I think it is. I think there's only going to be one goal in the game. It could go either way, and I'll go with Chelsea.
I think what Tuchel's doing is really good. I mean, look at Atletico. You've got the hardest team to break down in Europe, like by far, and Chelsea took the game to them. So you look at what he's brought to Chelsea, and it's been a lot of defensive stability, not many goals being brought in. And they go to Atletico, and he flips it round. He says, "Okay, no, we're going to attack them. We're going to play football. We're going to really get at them." And they did, and it was a brilliant game to watch because. And I sent this to a friend of mine on WhatsApp. Football won, I think, that night because you see it so much with Atletico where they just defend deep and nick a goal and then defend even further. I was really happy to see Chelsea win that game. I mean, what a goal from Giroud as well.
Yeah, he loves it, doesn't he?
Yeah, I think what Tuchel's brought to that team is something really exciting, and I can see them going places this year. I think top four is a real possibility for them.
Okay. So you've gone 0-0 low. So you haven't gone Chelsea. Sheffield United, Liverpool.
Suits both teams, I think.
No, that's fine. Yeah, I mean, it probably is a more likely result, but Sheffield United, Liverpool. Yeah. Normally, Liverpool won 1-0 their last season when they were playing well and when Sheffield United had a defence. This season, we've got Sheffield United without a defence and Liverpool not playing particularly well. But you've got to see 3 points, Liverpool, I think. Don't think it's a huge margin. I'll go 2-0 to Liverpool.
Really? You're going to back the clean sheet for Liverpool?
I think so. Sheffield United, I just don't see where their goals come from. They don't provide the threat from set plays they should. And they've got a lot of their key players out who would provide a threat from set plays. So I don't see that a route to score. And from open play, I don't back Sheffield United to score against anyone. So even with Liverpool's injuries, I think they're going to get a clean sheet here. So yeah, 2-0.
Yeah. No, surely we can't see more errors. I mean, you saw the news about Alisson, his father, awful, like absolutely terrible. You've got Kabak and Henderson playing instead. But defensively, they're not a solid team. But at the same time, I don't think you can get a better game than this because Sheffield United they've got so many problems, like defensively, offensively, just all over the place.
And it's gone, hasn't it? Hasn't it gone for them now?
Oh, it must. Surely. I mean, the West Ham game, they needed to get something a couple of weeks ago, and they didn't. And who did they play last? And they lost that as well.
I don't know.
Who was their last game? Sheffield United.
You're asking me. I'm just focused on this game right now.
It was Fulham, and they lost 1-0. So that was right, the key. Yeah. That was the absolute key game. So confidence is going to be completely.
They offered a bit in that game. They had opportunities, but they just can't score goals.
I'm just going to back a cut of 3-0 Liverpool.
Right.
Easy win.
Salah's going to hurt me a lot then if that's 3-0. I'm certainly worried about Salah. Yeah. Everton versus Southampton. I will go. Oh no, you can go first on this one. Go on.
Well, I'll go for a comfortable Everton win with the disclaimer that I wouldn't also be surprised to see Southampton nick it. I'm going to go for a 3-1 Everton. Romeu out to me is massive because you saw how big an influence he had in the last game. Everton with their fully fit squad, I think we'll have too much for them. So 3-1.
It's Bednarak right back as well. Rafinha just had him on toast, didn't he? And it's Richarlison out there against Everton. So Dino Richarlison on the left are going to surely get some joy if Bednarak's going to end up at right back. Surely Ralph has to look at that and change that. I don't know what other options he's got, but that's going to be a problem area. It could be a big scoreline. Calvert-Lewin could do very well, but I think Everton will settle on a 2-0, so I'll go with that. Page 2 of the fixtures.
Page 2.
And we start with Man City and Wolves on. This is going to be an
loads.
It's going to be an exhausting week. I mean, if I showed my missus the fixtures to come next week, she'd be packing my bags already, I think. It's just going to be an exhausting week of football. I don't know if I can take this. It's every night, isn't it? From Saturday onwards till this time next week. Wow. Man City Wolves. I mean, they struggled against Wolves in the past, and Wolves had turned them over last season, I think. Was it last season or season before last? So, I mean, Pep will be wary of the threat, Traore, Neto on the break. But this is the clean sheet. It's got to be, isn't it? I don't think a big margin again. We keep saying this about Man City. We don't see them winning 4 or 5-0 anymore, do we? We just don't see it because Pep he has come out and said, we will take games, we'll win them and then manage it out, basically. And I think they do this again. I'll go 1-0 City.
This game really showcased, I think, just what a weird season it's been, because Wolves scoring all those goals against City early in the season was just such a odd thing to have happened, and the reversal, with City now becoming this really kind of resolute defensive outfit and Wolves really struggling to score. Like how that's happened in kind of 20 weeks is really bizarre. But again, I find it really, really hard to predict Wolves scoring because Jimenez is such a massive loss for them. Neto is having the season of his life, but he can't carry them kind of how we'd like. So I'm just going to back a comfortable City win. Let's go for 2-0. 2-0 City.
Yeah, I mean, I remember that game because it was a game that I immediately bought De Bruyne and Podence off the back of, having watched the Wolves City game. Obviously Jimenez has been ruled out since then, and that's been the blow to Wolves' season. They've never really recovered, have they? Neto's been the shining light. And no. I'm sure a player we're going to look at soon for the end of the season where their fixtures look very strong. I've gone 1-0, as I say. Burnley versus Leicester, I'll go first on this. Will Maddison be back for this? Probably not. It does sound like he's going to be out for a while, but I still see Leicester having far too much for Burnley. I don't think it's a big margin win, though. But I don't see Burnley scoring. Maybe 2-0 Leicester.
It's one of those ones, isn't it? It's tricky / difficult. Oh, someone is very drunk tonight.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to back Leicester to win it again. Burnley are a funny team because it's almost like the kind of Lauriston predictions where you kind of almost want to back them to lose every week, but also you kind of know they could get something because they're well organised and disciplined. But they come up against a team like Leicester, and you think surely Leicester have got enough to win this one. So I'll back a 2-1. I'll back a 2-1 Leicester with Burnley to nick a set piece goal.
Yeah, I mean that's it. They don't really have a settled front line. Chris Wood's injury, I think he's edging back to fitness, but I just don't see. Rodriguez never really has convinced me when he's gone back to Burnley. He's not the player he was at Southampton that got into the England squad, it seems. So I just don't think they carry enough threat. Sheffield United Villa. Sheffield United have gone, surely, as we've said before. Villa, without Grealish, aren't full of goals, but should have enough to win this. But I think I'm going to go 0-0. I'm going to go draw. I think it's going to be a dour game.
Double clean sheet.
Yeah.
I'm going to back a nervy Villa win. Just a 1-0 in this one. I think Sheffield United will probably find it too tough for them, but just don't have the quality to match them. And Villa will have just about enough. So 1-0 Villa.
Okay, Fulham Spurs. I think, Fulham, we've backed
Palace
Spurs.
United next.
Oh, is it Palace? I've missed that one out. God, I'm getting so tired. I'm missing fixtures out. Palace versus United.
It's a big old thing.
It is. It's a slog getting through the fixtures. Palace versus United. You've got to. I mean, this is the game, isn't it? This is the one where Bruno delivers for the captaincy, and it's hard to deny them 2 or 3 goals in this game. I can't see anything other than a 3-0, 3-1. I'll go 3-0 though.
Well, it's an annoying thing for me because in order to fund Kane, I'm going to have to sell Rashford. And I think Rashford in this game is almost tailor-made to deliver. So it's a really tricky one for me. But I also think United are going to win it comfortably. So I'm going to go for a 2-0 United.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Hope that Rashford doesn't go.
That's the thing with Rashford. Once you get him, he's very hard to sell because he's got that explosive return in him. He's one of those players and it's hard to predict when it's going to arrive as well. So, yeah, he's almost like a painful player to own because he can be very erratic, not deliver for you, but as soon as you get rid, there it is.
I think the thing with selling Rashford for Kane is looking ahead though as well.
Yeah,
I mean, United's fixtures after this game are bad. They've then got City. They've then got is it Liverpool? They've got another tough game, whereas Kane has Palace after this game, and then Arsenal, and then actually has a game in 29.
29, yeah.
So even if it did burn me a little bit in this week, you've got to think over the next couple, it's going to pay off.
Yeah. Okay. And we get to Fulham Spurs now, and I will go first on this. Oh no, I'll let you go first. Go on, you have your say on Fulham Spurs.
Well, someone said in the chat a second ago that why aren't we back? Be a bit bold with your predictions. I think Fulham are going to win this. I like it. I think Lookman is going to be good from the set plays and the free kicks. I think it's going to be an important game for them. I think Spurs are going to win the first game quite comfortably and then probably think, okay, let's play really defensive. Let's put Bergwijn on and do all this and play defensive. So I'm going to back a Fulham win, and I'm going to back a 2-1 Fulham.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'd like to back Fulham, but I just can't see them scoring more than one goal, and I think they will score, but I don't. Their conversion rate is the lowest in the league. They're just not taking their chances. I don't know if that's going to change. They don't have natural goal scorers in their team. Mitrovic just isn't producing at this level. Madger's showed promise, but he's still largely unproven. So I can't see them scoring more than one goal, and I do see Spurs scoring more than one goal. So I'm going to go 2-1 Spurs. I think Fulham will score, but I'll go 2-1 Spurs. And West Brom Everton
seems very sensible.
Yeah, I will go West Brom Everton. I will go first on this. This is going to be an away win. Everton's form away from home has been extraordinary. I think it's 8 unbeaten in a row now in the Premier League, something ridiculous like that. So, and West Brom are weakest. They have been weakest at the Hawthorns. So it's only an away win here for me. It's about the margin though. I think they could get 2 or 3 goals, but I'm going to go with. Yeah, I'll go 2-1. I think West Brom will get one, but 2-1.
Really? Okay. I'm gonna go for a 3-0 Everton. I don't think West Brom are going to score in this. I think Everton are just going to win it comfortably. I think West Brom at home, Everton away. I think that Everton are just going to have way too much for them. I mean, it's funny with Everton because you look at players like Godfrey and Keane and Dean. They're having really, really good seasons, and I do fancy them to keep clean sheets. It's just. And Ancelotti as well. Like, he's such a good tactical, defensive manager.
But do you see them keeping with the 5 at the back? I mean, it worked really well at Anfield, but do you see them taking that formation forward? Because he's only...
Not really.
No,
I don't think they will against West Brom.
I wish they would, because it means Dina plays wing back, but yeah.
You're getting him in this way then?
You'll see in a minute.
Ooh, exciting.
Yeah, okay. So you're going... What was your prediction there?
2-0, I said.
2-0, okay.
2-0.
And last but not least, this enormous predictions we've had to make. We're going Liverpool versus Chelsea. I will go first on this, I guess. No, I'll let you You take this one. You go first. Liverpool versus Chelsea.
I can't believe that you haven't said any 1-1 predictions this whole time.
Have you not?
Liverpool Chelsea.
Right, there it is it?
1-1.
1-1. Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
I think
1-1.
I think that's a fair score. Chelsea defensively are strong. Liverpool have been firing blanks at home. I mean, I think their record in home games is awful. It's just ridiculous. I
can't believe it.
So 1-1's a good score. But I'm going to go for a Chelsea win because of the run of home defeats they've suffered. And Tuchel could do it to them again, I think. So I will go a 1-0 Chelsea. There we go.
Interesting. Quite different.
We're
quite
done.
Different.
Yeah, quite different. Well,
one of us is going to push ahead, I think, this week.
I think consciously I'm trying to be different to you in that respect to kind of spice up a bit. Right, finally, let's look at our teams then for the Gameweek 26 scenario. And I haven't made my transfers. Have you made yours? Doesn't look like it.
No, and you know, I'm keen to get your thoughts because my early thoughts are Antonio and Rashford out for Kane captain, which is key because if I wasn't going to captain Kane, I probably wouldn't do it. And I'd get Lookman. Yeah. And the reason I like Lookman is because I think they've got the Palace game, which I think looks good, and they've got the Spurs game, which I also think looks good, and I can bench him and get in, and I've got Lookman in for 29 as well. So it's giving me an extra kind of player.
Well, that's it. You're getting 2 players in for 29 there, right? So the hit is coming back.
I think so.
With those 2 players, right?
Yeah, and a few people played this chat. Antonio over Bamford. Yeah, it's difficult. But the reason why I do Antonio is because I'd look to bench boost. So if I did Rashford and Antonio out for Kane and Lookman, I could also sell Soufal, and I could get in someone like I could afford Luke Shaw if I wanted, who was benched tonight, or I could get in Target
and get
who then
another
has
29.
the game in 28, who potentially has another game week as well, and do that. So that would be for a -8, but it would give me a pretty strong bench boost. It would probably get me an extra player for 29, and it would potentially get me an extra player for the 28 double game week as well. What do you think?
Okay, so let's do the maths on this. So you're losing Soufal, who also has 29 though, and you're losing Antonio, who also has 29. So you're not really gaining players for 29 there. You're potentially gaining. You're gaining one because Rashford out for Lookman gets you 2 points back, right? So you're getting 2 of the 8 back there, and you're hoping that Villa have the extra double in 28, which could well happen.
Well, Antonio to Kane is they both have the game in 29.
True. Yeah. So it really depends on the likelihood of the Villa double game week, which I think it's worth going for. It's worth shooting for, I think. But the key is the bench boost. You've got to play it at some point. You can't go the whole season and not play. Well, you could, but you're not likely to, right? So are you? I mean, if you don't play it this week, when else do you play it? If you looked at that?
Well, the week I had it earmarked for was game week 30, which is, and it would effectively be Leeds versus Sheffield United, because that is the home match against Sheffield United. Now, I know this seems really obvious to a lot of people, but I hadn't considered that the best time to play the bench boost is in a double game week, even if your players are single game week players. Because if you've got Cancelo, Stones and Gundogan, for example, they've got the most chance of at least featuring in some capacity in the double game week. Whereas if I get to game week 30 and Stones and Gundogan both don't play, then obviously I'm getting the bench players off my bench anyway, and so my bench boost is completely meaningless.
You're boosting no one on your bench. Yeah,
you're boosting no one, and I hadn't considered that. So that is what's leading me towards playing it this week, just to get it out of the way, because then I can go into game week 30 with still a decent team. I can then bench boost in 31, not have to worry about any of the bench boosts or anything like that. All my chips are done, and just really, really hit those kind of last 6-7 weeks. So I'm doing the -4 anyway, it looks like.
I think the -4 is a certainty. I would definitely endorse that. It's whether you do
another
Soufal.
-4 for Soufal to Target, and the fact that Villa then have that extra potential double game week, and the fact they have the game in 29, I think just makes it
So here's a question for you. If you got Target in for Soufal, why would you not play him over Rafinha? Why would you not play a double game week player over Rafinha?
Well, I might, but I think it's close given the fact that we know that Leeds are playing well and Villa do have these injuries. So if I did do that move from -8, then my bench is Bamford, Rafinha, and Dallas. I don't feel comfortable with that as a bench because I think Leeds are probably going to win that game.
No, but I think if I was bringing Target in, that would be my thinking. It would be to play him, because he's away at Sheffield United, and I think that could be a clean sheet.
So then you bench all 3 Leeds players.
Yeah, I mean, I did it. I mean, you'd be having the same scenario as me. You'd have
but I thought Brighton were going to win that game, and they did. I didn't want to mention it. You forced my hand. I didn't want to mention it.
Can we outlaw that? That's going to be in BlackBox bingo, mentioning that game at every opportunity.
I think that this is a different week because I think Leeds are playing Villa at the perfect time.
Yeah, no, I think it's good. I'm not knocking it. I'm just saying, psychologically, you should look at that Soufal to Target move as bringing in a double game week player, enabling you to have 11 double game week players. And that makes it sound a lot better to me. So then I would go, go for it. Because I think you're getting 11 double game week players, and arguably Target could outscore Rafinha, right, with his 2 games.
Yep.
And you're obviously getting one extra player for 29 out of the whole deal. But you're getting Kane in as your captain, which gives you the captain that you want. Yeah, I think it's worth doing.
It just has that same thing with you. Whereas on Saturday, if Leeds lose 1-0 to Villa, your bench boost is, as the kids say, in the mud.
Yeah, where has this in the mud come from? It's like it's everywhere. It's all over the place. Yeah, I've used to say it. You're in stuck, is what I would say.
But when else are you going to play it? That's the thing.
Yeah.
There's not going to be another double game week like this. You're always going to have weaker players on your bench, and at least with the wildcard to play, I can then actually get in a weaker bench and then target.
And you're absolutely right. You have that buffer of, well, all my 11 are going to play at least one game, so I know my bench is my bench. None of them are going to be drawn into my team.
That is what I hadn't considered, and is now.
Yeah, so I think you do it for that reason. I think that makes sense. Yeah, totally. I gets my seal of approval for what it's worth. I do. So here's my team. Oh, we didn't get the transition. Don't know what happened there. Here's my team. I haven't made my transfers yet, but I am going Ings to Kane with the captaincy moving from Calvert-Lewin to Kane. And I'm going to do Tarkowski to Dina, which is a double game week player for a double game week player. But I just and then I'll choose between Rafinha and Son and Bamford. It'll probably be Bamford making way, and it'll be Dina in to give me a back four, and it'll be Bamford that I bench over Rafinha. I think I've got to go Rafinha. He's on all the set plays, and he's outscored Bamford over this period, so I've got to back Rafinha. He's done brilliantly.
I would. Yeah. I don't know if it helps at all, but if I was going to pick one out of the thing is Bamford is quite steady. You know, you could get a goal from him or whatever. Rafinha, you just watch him the last two games. He could have had double digits in both fixtures. He's going to hit that. I've got that same feeling with him, but like I had with Cancelo, he's going to hit that big return soon. You don't want to have him bench.
I mean, Bamford got the hat trick against Villa. He's got that on them.
He did. Yeah.
But I've got to back. It has a differential as well. I think I've got to go with Rafinha still. So that's the moves I'm going to make. Dina I want because he's got great fixtures in this game week, and he's got the potential of that second double game week in 28 to come. And he's got good fixtures around that. I mean, I've looked ahead. I mean, this is the key. This is the plan that I've been. I don't know whether you've done anything like this, but I think it's quite a good idea to do this. Did you do this? Just teasing him again.
Don't you start.
But actually, Ben Crellin. I don't know if you've heard of Ben Crellin, but he's done a planner, and he said on a tweet recently that he feels his season's getting better since he did this, and I actually think it's a point. So one of my BlackBox learnings is I'm going to do this from start next season. Yeah, because I think it has helped.
Absolutely.
So my plan is going to be Ings to Kane, as you see, Tarkowski to Dina, no transfer in 27. There's my team in 28. I'll probably get Johnston out for Martinez in 28 to get me Martinez in for the run-in ahead of for 29 rather. And then in 29, at the moment, Calvert-Lewin to Antonio, that could be Watkins, and then maybe Cancelo to Dunk. 30, my team looks good, and then wildcard in 31. So that, I mean, if you're through this period, it's been really useful to plan like this. And I actually do endorse what Ben has said. I think it's helped me as well. So I think it's not too late to start something up like this with these double game week situations and the 29 blank. But also, I think it's a good idea from now on to do this anyway. I think I've come too late to this, but it's been very useful. So as I would recommend you doing something like this, as I say. Right.
Not happy.
No, I bet you're not. Let's just check in on the BlackBox League. But we can't. How can we cash in on it? We could try.
Maybe.
But that would be
there
really
might be a way.
Patreon.
If there is a way.
No, I don't know.
I'm up for it.
Anyway, you're all about the money. The BlackBox League and Luka Bubnik had a good game week. 17th.
17th.
Yeah, he got a green arrow, a small one, but he got the green arrow. And we've got Calvin Lung, who's into the top 100 as well. So, Luca, we're right behind you. If you're watching or listening, we will follow you now over the final game weeks of the season. We want you to win our league. We want you to win our league. Well, do we? We're not biased. We want anyone to win our league. What am I saying? The water's going to my head. We want you to win FPL, of course, because you're in our league. So, but of course, if someone higher than you enters our league in the next few game weeks, they'll be our favourite instead. We're just going to put that out there because we're mercenaries, basically, is what we're saying.
That is fair. Yeah.
It is fair, isn't it? Right. It just leaves you to smash and like, doesn't it?
Yep. Thank you, everyone, for listening. I mean, I think, Mark, this is our most watched show.
Is it?
2,200 watching live at the moment. Please all like right now. Just
all
hit
of you.
That thumbs up button. And if that could go up to 2,000, it would do absolute wonders for this channel. I know it won't.
And join our league. Join our league as well. It's V8TX2P. We're trying to cash in on our league. You heard it from me.
Absolutely.
I don't know how
so
we're
if any of the
it
2,000 people watching are higher than Luca, join. And,
join.
And, we'll say how much we love you next.
You'll be our new favourite. Sorry, Luca.
You'll be our new favourite. Absolutely. But yeah, honestly, like and subscribe. It makes a huge difference. It's all just about, the more people we get watching, the more content we'll do, the better equipment we'll get. It's all this kind of stuff. So liking and subscribing does actually make a huge difference to the channel.
As might actually stop typing during the show as well.
I only did it once. And I'm annoyed because I've been muting myself as well.
Not that time.
I'm engaging with the fans.
I
Mark. That's
know.
what they want.
Fan engagement's all part of it, which is good. I know they like that as well. Yes.
But yeah, thank you everyone for watching, and we'll see you. I mean, it's the big week, so good luck to everyone who's listening.
Best of luck.
This is the big one, so nail it. Absolutely get those triple captains, bench boost captains all right, and we'll see you next week.
See you on the other side. It's good night for me.
Good night, everyone.